Kelechi Deca is an accomplished Nigerian journalist, policy analyst, and thought leader with decades of experience in global media and strategic communications. He has contributed to respected platforms such as Business Day, Financial Times, and African Business Magazine, and consulted for international organizations and blue-chip firms across Africa and Europe. Beyond politics and economics, Kelechi is a passionate lover of African culture, wildlife, fine wine, and classic cars.
In that Igbo cosmology, we also had that Chiuku,
The Almighty God.
Oseborowa. You get it? So our ancestors acknowledge the fact that in spite of all these gods and goddesses, there is also the Chiuku. Some people call Chineke, God the Creator, Oseborowa, whom everybody bows. So we tells you that our ancestors believed that there is also a superior one, and that all these other ones are the emissaries of the superior one.
A man who blends intellectual depth with a taste for life's finest experiences. Respected for his fearless voice and unique perspective, he remains one of the Africa's most engaging and influential public thinkers.
There was an industry that Obanje was feeding an industry. You know, they have in my place, they used to call it Owumiri industry, whereby you have all those women that go to the river.
Yes.
And they put all those things, and they have their own shrine. It's women, those women that are in charge of some of those things. Owumiri and all. It was an industry. And for you, if you understand the economics very well, you understand that those women also, they need to feed. They need to be in business.
And they need to be a problem for them to be in business.
You hear this issue of spirit husband, spirit wife, and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Some things, there are certain things you cannot argue against.
I want to ask, do you think with the likes of Ibrahim Traore, do you think that democracy has helped us or it has imprisoned us?
I studied a lot of countries, and I came to the conclusion that in the last 60 years or in the last 50 years, no country has broken the poverty and development barrier from being a poor, underdeveloped country to a developed, advanced country through democracy. None. None.
And say that the Umeme does not belong to the Igbos, that it was the Western invaders that came with it, and somehow it ended up, in the hands of the Igbos, who now believe that it traditionally belongs to them and belongs to their forefathers.
I think what was wrong was trying to engage him on those issues. That's what was wrong. And I think both those who engaged him on those issues and he himself that was trying to link up about some of those issues, I think they were all a manifestation of ignorance on rampage. Because when you study about culture from a fashion point of view, but we are not going to say because our forefathers were wearing loincloth, ngolongolo, loincloth, and the skin, the cat skin bag. So now for us to manifest our culture is going to be the ngolongolo and the cat skin bag, so that we are dressing in our culture. No.
I'm a strong believer in the existence of a God. I may not know how this God is, whether it appears, but I believe there's a super intelligent being somewhere that has carefully, orchestrated and planned this universe. Sometimes ago, Pete Edochie, the respected Nollywood legend, said something that it's not in Igbo tradition and culture for a man to kneel down to propose to a woman.
I've come to a level in life whereby people should do what makes them, what they feel good about, as long as what they're doing does not harm anybody. I believe that a man's right to swing his arms ends where another man's right to defend his nose begins. So if you want to kneel down to ask a woman to marry you, kneel down. If you want to prostrate,
Today he's live with us at the KaaTruths Podcast studio in Abuja, and I'm excited to have him. We also have a whole lot of other people, our most active followers who have come to also ask him some very, important question. This is the man who fondly call a human encyclopedia because he has virtually knowledge about almost everything about life. So today help me to welcome, I call him Day. In Igbo, you may not understand, but he's Day Kelechi Deca. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. It's an interesting one. When you agreed to come to this podcast, I asked myself, what exactly am I going to ask him? Because it's as if you know everything from car, wildlife, wine,
I don't know mathematics.
religion. Like you have knowledge, deep knowledge, in-depth knowledge about virtually everything. So it got me confused. But the first question that came to my mind was, okay, since is this, deep into a lot of things, what exactly do you not know? And how does not knowing something make you feel?
What I do not know, I do not know mathematics, as I said, and that's something I would have been so proud of if
Hmm.
I had. I'm not good in mathematics. I'm not good with numbers, even though am I'm somehow relatively good with statistics, and especially when it has to do with indices of human development and stuff like that, or indices of other things. I tend to have that more better. If what I know today, if I knew it when I was younger, I would have been very good with mathematics. I think that I had challenges with attention deficit, so
Hmm.
that affected me because I hardly focus on one thing for so long. I don't have that patience of focusing on one thing for so long. As a teenager, I used to read 3-4 books at a time. So I might start this one in the morning, this one in the afternoon, this one during bedtime. It's within the day. I would do at least three or four chapters in each of them. So because I'll get bored reading one book, unless, as we used to do then when we were growing up, you share books with your friends, people you read books with. You share books and they will give you 2 days because another person is hanging around waiting for the
For
book.
it.
So within 2 days you finished it. So growing up, we had trees in our compound. So I would take a book, climb up on a tree, stay there. By the time I come down, I finished that book. And I did that because I don't want distraction and stuff like that. So there are so many things I do not know. And realizing that I do not know them don't make me feel bad, because it makes me challenging, because I know that life is so deep, and the more we know, the more we know that we do not know. There are known knowns, there are unknown unknowns, So it's a struggle. We keep on going on, trying to learn every day, because that's one thing that also it has also its own biological advantage, because if you keep your brain active, trying to learn something, trying to solve a problem, trying to think out something, it helps your brain to grow more neurons. It helps to develop your brain, because the brain is the only organ in the body that continues developing until one dies. So if and as they say that nobody has made up to 12 to 15% of the brain capacity, and you find out that it's such a huge waste that we are not even getting to the level whereby we are making use of what God installed in us. We are yet to make use of it, and by the time somebody dies, you've not made use up to 12% of that thing. Then you ask yourself, what were you living for? What exactly were you? You just to just eat, dance, drink, and this kind of thing. What were you living for? Meaning that the brain has so much capacity, so much, so much. There are so much we've not learned. I mean, but when you look at the world we live, when you try to appreciate it, like as I was coming, I was checking the flight pattern, and I was, looking out of the stratosphere, and I say, wow, there is just so much we've done there. So every opportunity I have, I try to gain new knowledge. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I return. But one thing about knowledge and learning, it's like you're saving something in your system. You might there are so many things you saved in your laptop or in your phone or in your tablet that you forgot you saved those things. But one day you might be searching for another thing else, and you find out some of those things you said. So that's the way the brain works somehow. Sometimes something might come up, and your brain will just go to that file and just bring out that particular puzzle, that jigsaw, that thing you need to connect the dots that solve the problem. So that's why the more you're able to expand your knowledge, the better for you, because you might not know when you need that knowledge.
Thank you. While we were speaking, you made mention of God.
Yeah.
And just because we're recording this video on a Sunday morning, I'm going to ask you a question about God. What do you know about God? I'm not asking what you believe about God. What do you know about God?
Well, when you ask me what I know different from what I believe, it becomes a bit complex, because knowing and believing has a kind of way they interspace each other, because it's from believing that I start knowing. Especially when you have to talk about things that are extraterrestrial, it's from believing that I start knowing to get to the level whereby I say I know that this exists. But it's a personal thing. It's a personal relationship. And when I talk about God, I'm not talking about it from the perception of either whether a Christian or a Muslim. I'm not talking about it from a religious compartmentalization. Rather, I'm talking about it from the fact that some of the things I've observed in life, some of the things I've come to experience in life, some of the things I've come to study and read about are so overwhelming that there is no way such things can just happen by accident. And I've studied a lot. There are a lot of people. I've studied a lot about evolution. I've studied a lot about adaptation. I'm an enthusiast, a nature enthusiast. I've studied a lot about nature, studied a lot about animals, and which is something I'm so fond of. But I've come to realize that there is something, the innate intelligence you see with animals, or innate intelligence you see with trees. A lot of us don't know that trees and plants, they do have intelligence. So many people don't know that they do have intelligence.
I think I read somewhere by one woman who said that she whispers with trees. She communicates with trees.
They have intelligence. They communicate, and a lot of people don't know, because that's what I'm telling you, that there's so many things we have not known. Okay, look at this a situation. Let me give you an example. The giraffe, acacia trees are what giraffes and some other herbivores mostly feed on in the grasslands. That's what they feed on. But over time, acacia trees started growing thorns. Where they have their leaf, then there will be a thorn on the leaf, so that thorn will prevent the animals
from
eating it. But over the years, there is this there's this insect, like a soldier ant insect, that started living on acacia trees. Acacia trees release certain gummy substances on which these insects feed on. And these insects stay there to prevent animals from eating
The leaves.
the leaves of acacia trees. You get it?
His defense
You get it?
mechanism.
See how these kind of things come together. Then you start asking yourself, these things can't just be by ordinary happenstance. It can't just be. So everything is connected to everything. I used to tell people, everything is you have to understand the patterns. You have to understand the dots. So when I look at some of these things, minor things. Few days ago, a National Geographic explorer cameraman followed an orca. Orca is a killer whale. That the most dangerous animal in the sea. I mean, if a shark sees an orca, a shark will run with its dear life because an orca will target a shark and kill it in seconds. That, and they're also one of the most intelligent animal ever when you think about this National Geographic, because I mean, National Geographic is my popular, is my most adored channel. I live inside there anyway. So this photographer explorer followed an orca mom whose baby died. It is called the calf. Well, this is called the calf. So this orca mom carried this calf for over 10 days without releasing the calf. Mourning the death of this calf for over 10 days. And this guy was following it. After some time, inside the water, after some time, it will put the calf on his back and come up so that the sun will be on the calf, thinking that maybe somehow something will happen.
To resurrect.
Something will happen to this calf. It did not happen. So when you watch some of these things, you get so deepened that there is just something. I watched another episode some time ago. That was after my first safari tour in Kenya and Tanzania. This giraffe, a male and female giraffe, they were about to mate. And you know that the mating process of a giraffe takes a lot of nocturnal rituals before it's properly done. But while they were doing this, after the first mating session, about the second mating session, when they were doing necking, there's giraffes fight with their necks and they also cuddle with their necks.
So more like the human kind of romance.
Yes, yeah. So during the necking process, the male giraffe lost his situational awareness, and lions came. The female giraffe ran, but because the male giraffe after mating is already tired and exhausted, and they got it and killed it and fed on it. Do you know that every day that female giraffe was visiting that particular spot where that male giraffe was, where the bones of that male giraffe was? Every day this female giraffe was visiting it for 7 days, coming to that place, smelling this thing. Then you ask yourself, is this what's happening? And I can tell you about elephants. If an elephant dies, they're in herds, different herds, and each herd makes up a community, and each herd is led by a matriarch, the eldest female one. That's the one that has all the information about the family. He knows everything about the family. When one of them dies, they release a low vibration growl that can travel over 100 kilometers. And when other elephants around the area hear about it, they will follow the trace of that place and come and mourn. Like we do in the village, whereby if somebody dies, people will come and pay condolence. every elephant family within 200-kilometer radius
Will come
to that place where that elephant died to mourn. And when they finish their own mourning, they move around the place. After they finish their own mourning, they do some stomping. And you know, when an elephant's feet has how do I put it in English? You know, the elephant's feet, the elephant can place his feet on the ground and get vibration to know what is happening 300 kilometers away on the ground. And that's how they find water. If they're looking for water, they just put the matriarch will just put their feet on the floor, and it will use, and they smell it, and it will use it to know where water
to trace
is.
where water
trace
is.
Where this elephants can smell water 200 kilometers away. So what I'm telling you, this elephants community will come, they mourn, stay there for some time. After morning, they go. Another elephant community will come. These are journeys of over 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers, 200 kilometers. How did these things come about? I can tell you about when if an elephant takes in during famine, when there is no food, how they eat some plants to abort that child.
To abort
that child, because they don't want the child to be born at a time when there is no food for the family. That's what they do. The orca I told you earlier, the killer whale I told you earlier, the grandmother, because it's also a matriarchal society. And let me tell you something. The most successful animals in the jungle are the animals that are led by a female. I can give you a name of up to 20 different animals.
I hope you're not saying that men should relinquish their authority to women.
But all the most successful animals in the jungle are all led by females. From elephants to hyenas to orcas to whales, to all of them are led by the female. Yeah. So like I was telling you about the orca, the killer whale, the grandmother, immediately the daughter starts giving birth, the grandmother will activate a menopause. They have the power to cause themselves to go into menopause. And when she goes into menopause, she stops giving birth. She stops taking in. What she does, she acts as a grandmother, starts taking care of the babies of her own daughter. She'll be the one to be taking care of those babies of her own daughter. And you know why she activates her menopause? She activates it so that food won't be enough to go round for her daughters and for her grandchildren. So it doesn't make sense for her to be having babies when her children are having babies and there is no food. If there is no food, those babies die. It means that her own gene cannot be moved from one generation to another generation. So she cares about the next generation. So, you know, so some of these animals are so, like elephants do it. Elephant grandmoms, they do it. So, like, when I look at some of these things, I say that some of these animals are even wiser than us. They think about the next generation. But our own leaders think about the next election. So when I look at some of these things, that's how I feel that there is a power, there is a higher intelligence up there and above. And also when I delve into my own tradition and culture, I mean, I'm well versed. I don't mince words to say that I'm well versed and I'm grounded in Igbo culture and Igbo tradition and customs of our forefathers. So I also understand their relationship with God, and they've started that relationship with God before the colonialists brought Christianity to them. They already had a relationship with God. I can go into that, deeper and deeper to, to understand both the Igbo metaphysics, Igbo philosophy, and Igbo religion and stuff like that. So,
Wow. You know, we all got lost, go carried away. We go carried away. It's a lot. And I'm a strong believer in the existence of a God. I may not know how this God is, whether it appears, but I believe there's a super intelligent being somewhere that has carefully, orchestrated and planned this universe. So, but while we were speaking, so that we just spice it up a bit with, of course, I don't want to be asking some very deep questions serially once, so we can just pick here and there. The next question I want to ask is, because you talked about the women leadership, and it reminded me of something. Sometimes ago, Pete Edochie, the respected Nollywood legend, said something that it's not in Igbo tradition and culture for a man to kneel down to propose to a woman. So I want to ask, was it right? And does kneeling down to propose to a man a proof of a man's love for a woman?
I think those are borrowed. Is an Eurocentric way of life is borrowed. The idea of your knight in shining armor, kind of whereby the European royal houses then, as at then, whereby if a prince meets his bride for the first time, and let me tell you something, that all the European royal houses we are connected by blood, they married their first cousins. Yeah, we have, like, whether it is England, where you have the Queen Elizabeth and those kind of thing. They married they are related to the king of Portugal. They're also related to the king of Spain. They're related to the king of Belgium, the king, even up to the Tsar of Russia. So all these people are related. In Europe, they were marrying their cousins, and Maria Antoinette, who was beheaded during the French Revolution because they said that she said during the revolution her carriage was passing through the street and the women were crying and they're shouting, "Il n'y a pas du pain, il n'y a pas du pain." They were shouting at her that "Il n'y a pas du pain, il n'y a pas du pain." In French, "Il n'y a pas du pain" means that there is no bread for the children to eat. We don't have bread. Il n'y a pas du pain. So the woman, Marie Antoinette, was said to have pulled down the curtains of the carriage and told them, "Si il n'y a pas du pain, il faut manger du gâteau." Some people translated it, "Si il n'y a pas du pain, il faut manger la brioche." Which means that if there's no bread, let them eat cake. So they said that the people heard this thing and they got so annoyed, and that thing infuriated them to the revolution. And that's why when they killed her, the women were shouting about that. But if you start looking at it from a philosophical and a deeper perspective, Maria Antoinette came from Austria. She was a princess that she doesn't know what is suffering and all this kind of thing. To her, she was thinking that these women we are talking about choice.
Yeah.
If there's no bread, there should be something else too, because from where she came from, she was so disconnected that she thought that you don't want to eat bread, then you can eat cake.
She doesn't understand what it means not to have at all.
Not to have at all. So that's why she gave that this thing. So some of these things are cultures, European cultures, European way of life, But for me, I I don't like to dwell on some of these things. I mean, for me, I've come to a level in life whereby people should do what makes them, what they feel good about, as long as what they're doing does not harm anybody. I believe that a man's right to swing his arms ends where another man's right to defend his nose begins. So if you want to kneel down to ask a woman to marry you, kneel down. If you want to prostrate, prostrate. After, I remember one time I followed a friend of mine, some of us from Lagos, we drove to Ilesha. A friend of ours, he's from my place, Imo State, and want to marry from Ilesha, Yoruba girl. And we went there. They said that all the groom's friends will have to lie down before the family of the bride. I asked them, I say, is the culture? They say it's the culture. Then some of my brothers were saying, nah, I'm an Igbo man. I can't lie down for anybody. I say, look, I told them, I said, look, so are you telling me that you drove all the way from Lagos to Ilesha for this ceremony? And they say that what is their culture, that the groomsmen, the groom and his friends will lie down before the parents of the bride. Is part of the process. And you drove all this way down and you say you're not going to lie down. Then you enter your car and drive back to other place. I say it doesn't make sense as far as I'm concerned. If I've come here for this wedding and they say that lying down is part and parcel, and I know that it's part of the tradition, I know it's part of the custom, so why am I going to start fighting over lying down? They're not going to put me down there for the rest of the day.
Yes.
It's just for a few minutes, you just lie down and just stand up. There's nothing about it. I tell them, I said, come, let's lie down. And we did it. And we went out. I said, what's the biggest? Sometimes we fight over things we are not supposed to fight over. And you also have to understand the fact that culture is dynamic. It is the dynamism of culture that also helps to keep the culture moving and keep it alive and stuff like that. So I did not kneel down to ask for my wife's hand in marriage. It wasn't, even though it wasn't popular during my own time, and I'm so grateful to God that I passed through the passage of manhood at a time whereby you don't have to put everything you do online. You don't have to have a photo evidence to show that you did this. So we didn't, by the time I got married, there was no cell phone. So we didn't have that issue of whether I'm going to need her or I'm not going to need her. But I know if maybe my girlfriend then, who later became my wife, if she had wanted me to kneel down, I don't think kneeling down will be what I will say no over my dead body for kneeling one knee. Or is it not one knee? Stooping down, and they said you stoop to conquer. So I don't see that as yes, it is not our tradition. It is not our tradition, our parent, our father. Then sometimes also you have to ask some of these things, and sometimes that's why I also get bothered with stickability of culture and tradition. Then you also have to ask ourselves, did our grandparents, was it not their parents that decided who they're going to get married to? Your father will come home and tell you that you see Mazin Joko's daughter. I've seen Mazin Joko's daughter. I think she will make a good wife for you. And your mother will concur. The next day, they will just carry a jar of palm wine and tell you to follow them. You follow them. And they go to Mazin Joko and say that, Mazin Joko, there is this. And before you know it, you're married. So if we start saying that we must follow our culture, we also have to accept the fact that this idea, this idea that when people comes to your house to ask for your hand in marriage, your parents will call you out and ask you whether you accept or not, it wasn't our culture. In our culture, a young girl doesn't have a say. Is your parents, if your parents have decided that this is the person you're going to marry, nobody's going to call you. They will call you. And you just come and you greet them. You bow down and greet them. They say, this is Mazen Joko. This is Mazen Joko's brother. This is Kelechi, Mazen Joko's son. This is the person who will be your future husband. That's all you do. Nobody asks you whether you agree or not. This idea of whether you agree or not is not up to 40 years old. It's not up to 40 years old. Nobody was doing that in 60 years ago. Nobody was doing that 70 years ago. So when you start being a stickability for culture, then you ask yourself, if we want to go back to our culture, how far do you want us to go back? Do you want us to go back to the time when you see a woman on the road, you kidnap her, a young woman, you kidnap her and bring her home? Then you people will start asking, where are you? Who's your father? Who is your father? The next day you send them mysteries to the father. Your daughter is here. Oh. And the father will say, okay, since you people have taken my daughter, come and do what you're supposed to do. Do you want us to go back there? Do you want us also to go back to the time in our culture when you even see somebody who is married to another man and you propose to her and you take her home? You take her home.
By strength.
Yeah, by strength. You take her home that I'm going to marry you. And after some time, if the woman likes you, and before the woman will just go and tell the parents, they will go and return the bride price of the other thing. You see, in those days, some of our grandmothers married up to 2-3 husbands before they finally settled down. So do you want us to go back to culture? Do you want us to go back to... After, when you read, when you go through Chinua Achebe's work, you find out some of those things. But you know, the one thing that's will I say unfortunate, majority of the synthesis of our culture that Achebe captured were not in Achebe's books. They were in Achebe's essays. And so many people have not read
those essays.
Achebe's essays. When you read some of his essays, you know that this is where Achebe's genius manifests beyond normal comprehension. He highlighted some of these things. So when we say it's not our culture, it's not our tradition, yes, culture is dynamic. You know, people, you learn from here, you learn from here, you learn from here, you learn from here. But the one thing I don't really like about cultural people who want to insist on culture and all this kind of thing is trying to force people, trying to make humans a slave of the culture. We shouldn't be a slave of the culture. The culture, it should be our way of life, should be our guidance, should guide us in what we do and what we should not do and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. You say that culture is dynamic.
Yes.
And when we talk about culture, we're talking about our way of life.
Yeah, our way of life, totality of our way of life.
And I've seen people like you who are passionate about their culture and tradition. They want to keep it. They want to maintain it. Now, if culture is dynamic, does that not affect the originality? Because I mean, just like you pointed out, what our forefathers used to see as their culture is no longer what we refer to today as. It keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Does that not affect the originality of these cultures? And if it does, what then is the essence of
culture? Is the culture?
Is the culture culturing?
Yeah, basically, when we say that culture is dynamic, it means that culture dances to the tunes of the time. You get it? Okay, for example, now you have cell phone. Your father, during his own time, never had cell phone, but they were also communicating. You get it? Our grandfathers never has. Okay, like let me give you an example. In those days, when a real man dies, nobody utters, nobody cries until the Omunna have been informed. And in some places, when the Omunna have been informed, it's the men. When they say Omunna, is the men. Even women will hear it. Everybody will do it in hush hush. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. They'll be telling you, a great Iroko has fallen. The great Iroko has fallen. Maybe Mininezo Hezo, Amalan. They'll just be talking. Unless you know, you don't know. Then, before it will be announced, they will use some places. You use 10 cannon shot of gun. Some places it's just a single shot at the middle of the night, midnight. In some places, you hear one gunshot. It's after that one gunshot that the woman in the house will let out a cry, what we call akparede. She will let out a cry in the night. And after she has let out that cry, other people will join and they cry. Then even people who have known, will start acting as if this is the first time we are knowing it. Unlike now, there is cell phone. Somebody will die before you know it. If some people are even seeing the death of their loved ones
on social media.
Just somebody. So you see this kind of thing. So there are some of those things, and now then the way people live, the way families live together. Then families might get, this is your homestead, barricaded from other people's homestead, and there's some distance between here and there and there and there. But now a family will live upstairs, another family will live downstairs, another family will live on another family will... If somebody dies, there's no way you keep it secret with the other people not knowing. So you see that sometimes structural changes, environmental changes influences cultural changes, and that's the dynamism of culture. Is a reflection of the environment. What can happen within this environment at this particular time, and what cannot happen at this particular time. There are certain things we do before you can't do now because somebody can claim the Constitution. The Constitution of Nigeria said you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. But before, it used to be the law, Omunna, the tradition. This is what our tradition said. This is what our tradition said. But can you do that now with the Constitution, with the local law, with the customary law, everything? So when you balance all these things, you find out that the cultural, for culture to culture, it has to navigate all these changes, both environmental, social, economic, and all these things. It has to. But the thing is that what remains is the values. When we say that the culture is dynamic and the culture, we shouldn't lose fact of our culture, is the values we are talking about. Let's hold on to the values. Let's hold on to the values. I might not wear Ishago. I might not wear Okuofo. You get it? To which externalizes what has been internalized. This is an Igbo man and that kind of thing. But inside me, I know what the values are. I know what is required of a true Igbo man. I know what I shouldn't do as an Igbo man. I know what I should respect. I know what I should stand for. I know the concept of Ofonogu. I know the concept of Ojofogana. So these are things you have to, and it doesn't matter whether you're driving in a Lamborghini or you're driving in a Rolls Royce. Ofonogu is Ofonogu. You get it? So these are some of the things we have to understand. Let the values be the things we must not allow it to be eroded. When we allow the values to be eroded, then we are having challenges. I was discussing with somebody some time ago when they used to hear they call an Igbo man Okoro man. I know your generation don't know the meaning of that Okoroman. When they say that this man is an Okoroman, I know they don't understand the full meaning of what it means by an Okoroman. When they used to call an Igbo man an Okoroman, what you will see a man who sacrifices his comfort for the convenience of his family. You might see him, you will see those days, you see very rich Igbo people, unless somebody tells you that this man, na ide or you will not know. Those days, we don't used to use cars or maybe bogus building or come and spray money or to do giveaway to tell people that you are a man. What matters is how you're controlling your family, providing for your family, feeding them, doing things. And when issues come up, how do you rise to some of those issues? All those kind of things come out. So then, in the Igbo land I saw growing up in the 80s, flaunting of wealth was people looked at it as such a way as if it's something that is abhorred. You don't flaunt wealth. You don't. That's why you will see rich people, they just sit down with Drumuna, they will just relax with everybody. Everybody was relaxing from everybody. That Okoroman, that kind of he's not stingy, but it is a kind of you subdue your living lifestyle. It's a subdued lifestyle that's not shouting. It's a subdued lifestyle that is not it's eloquence. Its eloquence is manifested when there is a need. When there is a need in the community, we know the houses of those you knock on their doors, they come out. But they don't come out and start staying on the open roof car and come to the village and start throwing money for you to know that they know.
As it is today.
As it is today. We weren't doing those things those days. There are men in those days, even before the war, who were millionaires in pound sterling. You hardly see them. I remember, you see, some of these things. There was a time, even in old Imo State, when there is a launching, somebody gave 100,000 naira. We will clap until our hands are peeling. How many people were doing it then? Iwanyang. Then you have banners. You have Efuyanyang. You have, some of those few people. But these were men. I remember there was the time they did. I remember the time we did that Imo Airport launching, the first launching, second launching. These men just came in. There was no convoy. These are millionaires then. They just drove in. Iwanyang just drove in. The driver, then him at the back of the Mercedes Benz. He just came out. People went to welcome him. It can't happen today now without convoy, without people beating people, without.
So
those are some of the things, we used to know men in those days. These things weren't happening, but it doesn't mean that people weren't rich. People were still rich. At their level, they were still rich. These were men. So those are some of the things. So when we talk about the dynamism of culture, we have to talk about the values. Values, the core value of the Igbo culture, the value of Onyaga na Nwanne, the communalism. Onyaga na Nwanne. And if you, maybe most of your generation never heard about the Igbo State Union. That was the defining union. Now people have Ohaneze. You look at Ohaneze. If you knew Igbo State Union and you're hearing about Ohaneze and you're looking at Ohaneze, you would know that anybody who's comparing the two should receive a hot slap. You should receive a hot slap. Igbo State Union, they were the think tank sat down, idealized the way the Igbo should go. You're having an apprenticeship. Those are the ideas of Igbo State Union. Even those days, in the markets, they used to build night schools in the market so that those apprentices, after when they close shop, they will go to school. Those were the ideas. Market schools. Those were the ideas of Igbo State Union during the time of Chief Zesi Obi. Then during the time of Dr. Nandaziki was the president of Igbo State Union, he took the idea to a different level. When you read his book, Renaissance Africa, where he highlighted the fact about the place of the Igbo in the liberation of Africa, you understand those ideas, of Igbo State Union and what they are trying to achieve. And when you had a man like M.I. Okpara achieve what he achieved under few years, what Okpara achieved in 4 years is what all the governors that have ruled the old Eastern region, the 9 states of the old Eastern region in the last 20 years have not been able to achieve.
Hi.
So, what do we say?
Thank you. Thank you for that. While you were answering this question, you made mention of the Isiago traditional Igbo wears and Umeme, I think earlier this year or so, Honest Bunch podcast hosted Reno Mokre, where Reno, he was asked about the Igbo traditional wear. And Reno said that the Umeme does not belong to the Igbos. That it was the Western invaders that came with it. And somehow it ended up, in the hands of the Igbos, who now believe that it traditionally belongs to them and belongs to their forefathers. And he also said the same thing about the Isiago traditional wear. So, now that you're here, you have in-depth knowledge about this Igbo tradition and some of this historical fact. Was he wrong or was it right?
I think what was wrong was trying to engage him on those issues. That's what was wrong. And I think both those who engaged him on those issues and he himself that was trying to link up about some of those issues, I think they were all a manifestation of ignorance on rampage. Because when you study about culture from a fashion point of view, then you ask yourself, and when I tell you that I'm grounded in this area, I've been in school, European civilization were part of the courses, then you ask yourself, what they are wearing in Europe today, is it their cultural dress? The suit that they wear today, is it their cultural dress? Have you not seen some of the Scottish men that wear skates?
Yes.
Or those Bible readers that wear skates? Is it part of their cultural dress? If you in Japan, you see a lot of Japanese men wear suit. But they have their kimono, which is also their cultural dress. You see, fashion, like culture, is dynamic. And at every given time, whatever a people decides that this is what resonates with our dressing pattern, and this is how we want to be dressing as a way of manifestation of our tradition and our culture, it becomes their cultural dress, it becomes their traditional stuff. If you go to Niger Delta, you will notice that some of the traditional rulers wear there's a kind of hat as if they are sellers' hat. Some of those maybe of this. When you see some of their dressing and even the name they answered, you also see the influence of the Portuguese and all those kind of things to them. But today, That's how they are dressing. If you go even to some of the areas of Sasa, like Warri or this kind of thing, you see how the Olu of Warri dresses. When you look at some of those dresses, you will see some influence, some maritime influence of their relationship with seafarers, European seafarers. And when people talk about some of these things, our people have started traveling by sea before the Europeans came. So do you think it was the Europeans that took some of the Igbo people that moved from here to some other parts of Africa, like all those Fanadapo and some of those people? It wasn't the Europeans that took them. Some of them, some Arochukwu traders have started trading before the Europeans came. So in culture, when you move around Africa, then you ask yourself, how were people dressing 100 years ago? Okay, tell me which culture in Nigeria that the way they are dressing today as their cultural dress was the way they were dressing 100 years ago. No, tell me which one. Which one would you say that the way they're dressing today as their cultural this thing was the way they were dressing 200 years ago? Which one? But we are not going to say because our forefathers were wearing loincloth, ngolongolo, loincloth, and the skin, the cat skin bag. So now for us to manifest our culture is going to be the ngolongolo and the cat skin bag, so that we are dressing in our culture. No. A culture of the people is what the people generally agrees that this is what they are going to be doing. That's part of that dynamism, that general agreement and general acceptance. In Igbo land, we used to say that which means in Igbo land is a taboo. But when the whole community came together and they decide to do it doesn't hold anybody. Is not the sacrilegious impact of that does not hold on anybody. You get some of this because people came and agreed that this is if now we are now wearing Ishago. We are now wearing Opuofo. After all, some people in Akwa Ibom, Cross River, they wear the same Opuofo. Some people in River State wear the same Ishago. But if we say now, if it has become a symbol where we are known, I went to Sierra Leone. So many Sierra Leoneans are wearing Ishago. I asked them, I say, how do you like it? They say, yeah, the Igbo people here. You go to market in Sierra Leone, you see Ishago, sewn Ishago on display. People are buying it. Sierra Leoneans are buying it. You ask them, they say, yes, we like the way the Igbo people dress. So now you go and tell Sierra Leoneans that it's not Igbo way of life and dressing. You are amazing. So, there's some things I don't join issues with because of the level of intelligence that goes into the ideation of such thoughts. When the level of intelligence is so low, and it's also leaving the essence and pursuing other things, then you just leave it. People will keep on, culture will keep on. I wrote on the other time on my Facebook page that, most fathers, most parents of my generation now don't bother about being in band A or band B because their children now don't iron their clothes.
That is true.
Look at the Gen Zs. How many of them iron clothes? They don't iron clothes. See the kind of dresses they wear. Have you thought about the way the children of Gen Zs are going to dress? Have you thought about that? So it's moving.
Voila.
These things will keep on moving. And it goes everywhere. You see, let me tell you, have you noticed sometimes now you come to places like Lagos or go to this thing, you cannot differentiate between a Gen Z Igbo and a Gen Z Yoruba and a Gen Z Hausa.
That is true.
You can't. Sometimes you can't differentiate now. In my estate, you have a lot of Hausa boys on dreadlocks with sagging jean. 10 years ago, we didn't have that. But now you have a lot of Hausa boys. In my estate in Lagos, you see them. They have dreads. They sag their jean and they wear Crocs, and they move around. Even their accent, you will have to pay attention for you now to hear the northern accent from them. You will, so it tells you that a lot of things are changing.
And those who still have the northern accent are now considered uneducated.
And that's where the problem is also with our people. That's also the problem with our people. You see something people don't understand. Everybody in the world has an accent. And having an accent is not a sign of uneducation. Okay, well, go to India and tell all those boys that are designing, building apps and designing all these things that because they say they are telling you, good morning, Mr. Kelechi, that said you are not educated. Yet you will be there and they will become a CEO in Silicon Valley.
Multi-billion companies.
In Silicon Valley. So, and our idea that you have to change your accent for you to be seen to be educated is also a sign of ignorance. What matters is articulation.
Someone has accused me on this podcast. I read some random comment on our post. Said, I don't like this your Igbo accent. You sound so uneducated. I say, but I'm an Igbo man. Why should I sound like a Chinese man? The Chinese man, does he sound like an Igbo man?
Doesn't make sense. You see, you ask people who studied linguistics and languages to its highest. I didn't study. I mean, the last linguistics class I entered was linguistics 301 and 302. So I didn't go to the level whereby you study some of these other things. But ask them, even within, I mean, go to England. By the time you move from one area of Britain to another area of Britain, you hear different. If a man from Scotland speaks English to you, you won't be able to understand anything.
Yes.
What's that man? What's that man that does football commentary or so? I've forgotten his name. Yeah. When he talks, nobody hears anything.
Yes, you have to listen.
You have to listen before.
There was a comedy I watched where they used that. The guy was speaking English. The lecturer said, "Where are you from? What are you speaking?"
Not even in Scotland. Let me tell you, even in England, if you move towards Hull, move towards Scunthorpe, all those northern England, you will discover that sometimes you have to strain before you hear what they're saying. Go to Australia. Go to Australia. Unless you understand the accent of the Boers in South Africa, you won't understand the accent of most of the people in Australia. They have the similar accent. So that's the way it is. It moves. Even in America, you will speak. Somebody will say, you're from Texas. You see somebody say, you're from New York. You see, it's different. It's different. So the most important thing is your articulation. It's also your pronunciation. Pronounce words in a way people will be able to understand that this is what you are pronouncing. Then you articulate your words in a way that when your words are collocated together, it will make meaning, not just forming a sentence. You can form a sentence that doesn't make meaning. But form a sentence that makes meaning, properly collocated, so that people will understand what you're saying, and they will also make meaning out of what you are saying. And that's communication. It's communication. I mean, go to Igbo land. Go to Igbo land. Speak Igbo. By the time 1 kilometer is another dialect. I mean, if you're traveling from Lagos, immediately you get to Abo, listen to the Igbo they speak. Between Abo and Ubulu, between Ubulu and Asaba, you hear different Igbo. Between Asaba, even Onisha to Obaro to as you're moving up to Uli, you will see
unique.
You see that differences. Get to Owerri, you hear it. Then you from Owerri, going towards Mbise, you will notice that the Mbise people that share border with Owerri speak with Owerri dialect. You understand? And the Mbise people that share borders with Obo speak with Obo dialect. The Mbisen people that share borders, but on the river bank of the Imo River, they speak with traces of Ngba dialect. Then the Mbisen people that share borders, the Ayazun Mbisen, the last Ayazun Mbisen people you meet before you enter Ehimembano, they also speak with Mbano dialect. So that's the way language is.
Thank you, Day.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take just one question from Kelechi. Yeah, Richard, sorry. Please make the question very brief. Okay.
All right. While speaking earlier, you talked about the revolution across some parts of Europe, and then bringing it down or back to our home country, Nigeria. We have of recently heard songs of revolution everywhere. Everybody wants the country to be revolutionized. But now the point is that we have a country where a lot of people are still beating traffics, where people are not even keeping up to orders that are going to ensure peaceful coexistence with their fellow citizens. And there are so many others irregularities that is happening within our country. Now we are yearning for revolution everywhere in Nigeria.
No, it's not going to happen.
Is it that we need to transform our mind, or we need a revolutionized nation? Because I feel if we are clamoring for the nation to get a revolution, and then with the same old mindset we have, we are still going to move into that nation that have undergone revolution in that same mindset, and then we are still going to corrupt the whole system.
Okay, let me help you. I used to, there was an analogy I used to give some time ago. I said that if you take everybody from Nigeria to, okay, we need a country that is large enough to take everybody from Nigeria. So if you take everybody from Nigeria to China, China is well developed infrastructure, first class infrastructure, everything. If you take everybody from Nigeria to China and take everybody from China to Nigeria, within 5 years, that China will look like Nigeria, and this Nigeria will look like China. You see, a lot of things are in the mind. Development is a mind thing. Underdevelopment is also a mind thing. There's a book called Underdevelopment is a State of Mind. If you get hold of that book, you understand some of the transformations and some of the changes that happen in South America, and how some of their let's say culture held some of the countries down. Nigeria is not complex. If people, let's come to that. But the major problem with Nigeria is that Nigerians are more ethnically inclined than nationally inclined. And that's why over the past 15 years, I've been advocating that if the people identify more with their ethnicity and their tribe more than the nation, restructure the nation in a way that ethnicity will be the building block of development. You understand what I mean? What I mean is that now you can restructure the nation in a way whereby you have a kind of Yoruba subnation, Igbo subnation, give them autonomy. Then the North, in as much as they have so many ethnic cannot this kind of thing, work it out how it will go. Let people, the driving force of the nationalism be regionalism. You get it? Instead of trying to force a Nigerian, instead of trying to force an Igbo man to become a Nigerian, first, why not force him to become a better Igbo man in Nigeria?
Exactly.
And get a Yoruba person to become a better Yoruba person in Nigeria. Get a Hausa person, a Fulani person, an Ibibio, an Efik, an Ejo, an Edo. Get them to be a better Edo, a better Ejo, a better Efik, a better Calabari, a better Ibibio person in Nigeria. By the time everybody becomes a better version of themselves in their own enclave, you will have a nation that is better than it was. Why Nigeria is in a mess is basically because Nigeria is like, our people used to say something, Ewu, a goat that is owned by so many people. Nobody, this person will think that this person is feeding it. This person said this person is feeding it. And in the long run, nobody will feed it and the goat will die. You get it? That's why Nigeria is in a mess. And you find that because people are more ethnically inclined. They love their ethnicity. They wear their ethnic badge more to their heart than they wear the Nigerian badge. So why not let our development process, why not let our development ideation go along ethnic lines? And people will tell you, it will bring ethnicity, tribalism, but we already have tribalism. We already mired, we already swimming in the worst form of tribalism and ethnic sentimentalization. So why not try something different? Why not use that tribalism, turn the tribalism into a positive force? Into a positive force. Identify people according to their ethnicity, then tell them to use that force and be a better human to that their ethnicity. So me now, instead of me trying to shout, why is Tinubu not doing this? Why is Tinubu not doing this? I will sit down and say, why is Hope Uzodinma not doing this? And as somebody from Imo State should be this, Igbo land should be this, Igbo land. I start thinking more about how to develop Igbo land. Then let Femi continue thinking more how to develop Yoruba land. Then let Hassan think more how to develop Hausa land. Then let Kanem think more how to develop Ibibio land. In the long run, we have everybody thinking, whereby you become that the units are developing, and as the units are developing, the whole that contains the unit becomes developed. Is it not? Yes. Have you not noticed the challenge we have in Nigeria, that Nigerians become more patriotic when somebody from their own ethnicity is the president?
Exactly.
And immediately the person who is from the ethnicity ceases from being the president, they become opposite. They become they join opposition and start criticizing the next person. It happened when Jonathan was there. People from the South, everybody was wearing Nigeria on their head. Immediately Jonathan left, they become anti-Nigeria. When Buhari was there, everybody from the North was wearing Nigeria on their head. You can't criticize Nigeria for anything. But look at today, go online today. Some of the major critics of the country are from the North. And when other people were there, the Yoruba people were in charge of the opposition media campaign against whoever was there. But today, they're the ones that are reminding you how you should be patriotic. So these are some of the things. So when a country identifies some of these challenges and is still holding on to the belief that one day it's going to work, it's not going to work. And if I say it's not going to work, I'm not being pessimistic, I'm being realistic. So let us develop along those lines.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. There's something that has always worried me. Every time I think about it, I seem not to really understand or come to a logical conclusion. Do you think that there is a grand conspiracy, a carefully crafted pattern by the Western world to keep Africa underdeveloped?
You see, I've addressed this issue on different occasions, and at different fora. Let me tell you, anybody who is a no top dog wants to have another top dog. It's a natural law. And if you're waiting for a top dog to relinquish his top dogness for you so that you become a top dog, it's not going to happen. Do you know, or not that do you know, Europe have been fighting against the rise of China for hundreds of years. You get it? There was a time China was so prosperous that China locked its doors against every other person. It was Europe that went there and keep on knocking, keep on begging until they opened it. The Opium War you hear about was not necessarily about opium, but it was about control of trade. The Silk Road trade. And one of the things that led to that war was control of tea. I've written about it, how England sent spies, missionaries into China to steal the tea plant. And when they stole it, they took it to India and Sri Lanka. So all this thing you hear about Ceylon tea, Sri Lankan tea, all those, they were stolen from
China.
Because then they were also in charge of India, Sri Lanka, Ceylon. They were all British territories. So they felt that they couldn't plant it in their own soil. Let them plant it in a place that has the same
Soil.
the soil texture of China. Planted it. It led to a war. War twice. It's about trade. So you see that Africa is keeping itself down. But that does not mean that there are no policies out there to push Africa to remain where it is. There are policies out there that are not necessarily, it's not, these policies were not necessarily crafted to, okay, let's keep them down, no. But some of these policies, some of the outcomes of these policies are also keeping Africa down. Let me give you an example. You know, people talk about this, they say aid, you know, nobody grows by getting aid from a country and this kind of thing. Why aid did not help Africa was partly because of the structure of the aid package. Let me give you an example. Let me use, say, Germany, for example. If Germany comes out and announces that they're giving Nigeria $100 million for its rural development project, and you hear the news, you think that they've transferred $100 million to Nigeria. No. That $100 million you hear about, whatever that project, rural project is going to, you know, you're going to use, whatever equipment or something you're going to use for that rural project, they will send it from Germany. When they send it from Germany, they minus the cost from the $100 million. Then the experts that are going to help to design the structure of that aid will come from Germany. They'll be paid from that. And majority of them will come. They will go to Hilton and Sheraton and those kind of things. If they're going to stay there for
as long as
they're going to stay, the money is going to come out from that. Then, if they're going to use cars, they will send in cars from their country, and these cars will have import waivers. Now nobody's going to pay duty on them, and it will come from that money. You get it? So by the time they get to the real fund that you need to this, you find out that about 25% or about 30% of the money made is what is available. Others have gone into running cars. There's this lady from Zimbabwe, Dambisa Moyo. She wrote a book years ago, Dead Aid, whereby she highlighted some of the politics surrounding this aid and all this kind of thing. So that's why when China came with their own style, if China said that they're going to give you $200 million, they will give you a bridge. They'll build a bridge. Use that money to build a bridge. You get it? That's their own aid. But in that bridge they're building, the engineers used to come from China, but now CCECC is here. Then you have some of these Chinese companies. That's how most of these Chinese engineering construction companies entered into Africa. When they came to deliver on some of those aids, after the delivering, they didn't go. They sit down here, set up shop, and started looking for contracts and started building contracts. You get it? But it behoves on Africa. They say that you cannot shave a man in his absence. And no man can climb on your back unless you stoop down for that person. So Africa is holding Africa down. And I have over 100 examples. Let me say, I have covered the African Union Heads of State Summit. I started when it was Organization of African Unity. My first coverage as a journalist of that event was in 1999 in Lome, Togo. That was the first time I met Muammar Gaddafi. Then from there, we were invited to Libya when he was launching the Little Green Book, where he wrote about how he's going to transform Libya and transform Africa and that kind of thing. So from 1999 till today, I've been covering the African Union Heads of State Summit. So when it comes to development issues concerning Africa, I will say that I have a little knowledge and have a little understanding. I've seen those policy papers. I've been there where it was discussed. I've followed these things from 1999 to now. You know how many years it is. Every year. There's no one I've covered the IMF World Bank for 25 years. There's no IMF World Bank annual meetings that have not attended in 25 years, wherever they're doing it in the world. So I have a little understanding about development too. I have a little understanding about the politics of development. And I have a little understanding about the politics and economics of policy making. Africa is holding itself down. This year, we celebrated the ECOWAS, 50 years of ECOWAS. Have you asked yourself, what has ECOWAS achieved in 50 years? I have driven from Lagos to Deka, crossing all the countries. From here, across Benin Republic, enter Togo, cross Togo, enter Ghana, cross Ghana, enter Cote d'Ivoire, cross Cote d'Ivoire, enter Liberia, cross Liberia, enter Sierra Leone, cross Sierra Leone, enter Guinea-Bissau, enter Guinea, enter Senegal. How many countries? I've done it. So I can tell you that the concept of the free movement of persons and goods that ECOWAS signed 30 years ago is not working till date. It's not working. If you're moving, I was in Cotonou on Tuesday. For the last 3 months or so, I've been having events that take me either to Cotonou or to Lome. I'm driving, I'm not flying, so I know what's happening on the road. If you move from here to Cotonou to Seme, you can count 1,200 trucks, lorries, both containerized and non-containerized, that have been there. Some of them have been there for more than a week to clear them to move goods from one country to another. It takes more than a week. Some have been there. Some of them, I've spoken with some of the drivers, they've been there for more than 10 days. So if you're moving a good from Nigeria to, say, Ghana, you know how long it stays? Who factors in the cost of doing business along the West Coast region? Then when you move from Cotonou towards there, you go to Ilakonji, it stays there. From Ilakonji, it enters Togo. By the time it enters, you go to Aflao, it stays there. I have done all this. Sometimes when I read what people sit down in front of their laptop and write and all this kind of thing, I'll tell them that I can name every border post from Lagos to Gambia by road, whichever road you want us to follow. I can name every border post one after the other, and tell you what happens and what to expect. This thing that we are calling ECOWAS superhighway. There is no superhighway anything. There is no superhighway anything. Some countries have better roads than the others. There are some places you go, it will be bush road. If you enter into Liberia, some places, if you don't have a 4-wheel drive, you won't pass. 50 years of ECOWAS. Yet, South African, the SADC region, Southern African Development Corporation, is not up to 20 years. About 20-something years it was founded. The ease of movement between South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, all those places is faster. Is 100% faster than with ECOWAS. Yet ECOWAS was founded in 1975. They're celebrating 70 years. What have they achieved in 70 years? That's what you ask yourself. Do you know? Let me shock you. A lot of people don't know. Do you know that if you travel from here to Ghana, the law says that as an ECOWAS citizen, you can stay for 90 days, right? Do you know that if you're coming, they will ask you how long you're going to stay? When you look at your stamp, so many people don't look at their stamp. When you look at your stamp, you find out that they'll give you about 1 month. Travel from here to Sierra Leone or Liberia or Senegal, go and check.
Instead of 3 months.
And confirm. And if you overstay, in some countries, every day you overstay is about $50. So this is it. So I mean, I'm now you want me now to believe that it is the West that is doing us. Okay, let me give you another example. There's what we call the Yamoussoukro Accord. The Yamoussoukro Accord is a policy paper signed for open skies, which means that all the hurdles between airlines moving from one country to another is reduced. We remove all the taxes, all the costs in components, and all those things we pay and all those kind of things. So that if an airline can move from Nigeria to Ghana, from Ghana to Liberia, from peak passengers, let it be an open sky. Everybody be participating. This thing has been there. It's for more than 30 years. Yeah, about 30 years or so. It's been about 2000. It was signed in 2000. Up till now, they have not implemented it.
That is 25 years.
They have not implemented it. Do you know that it is, in some places, it is cheaper to fly from here to London than to fly from here to Sierra Leone?
Hi.
Sierra Leone is 3 hours. London is 6 hours. Do you know?
Now that you're talking about it, you see, yesterday I read that Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso, declared Burkina Faso visa free for Africans.
Yeah.
And you've been consistent with this, advocating for an open boundary. This artificial, these artificial boundaries is a whole lot for us. So I want to ask, do you think with the likes of Ibrahim Traoré, do you think that democracy has helped us or it has imprisoned us?
No, you see the issue. I try to be careful when I debate about issue of democracy. There's something I said years ago that was about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I studied a lot of countries, and I came to the conclusion that in the last 60 years or in the last 50 years, no country has broken the poverty and development barrier from being a poor, underdeveloped country to a developed, advanced country through democracy. None. None. I was at a conference and I challenged everybody in the conference. I say, give me an example of one single country that was able to defeat poverty, defeat ignorance, defeat underdevelopment, become technologically advanced, become infrastructurally advanced, gain high literacy rate
Through democracy.
through democracy. None. But over 20 countries have been able to break this barrier, but they didn't do it through democracy. South Korea did not do it through democracy. The person who was the leader of South Korea was General Park. The daughter later became president some time ago. General Park was the man under whose tutelage that the chaebols were formed in Korea. The chaebols made up of LG, which is Lucky Ghoster, Samsung, Hyundai, or people call it Hyundai anyway, Hyundai, Daewoo, and there's one other, there's supposed to be about 5. They call it the chaebols. That was what Obasanjo wanted to copy when he established Transcorp and said that Transcorp will be a special purpose vehicle whereby other companies, large conglomerates will be formed. When you go to South Korea, you will see toilet seater that was made by Daewoo. You will see doors that were made by Samsung. But if you're here, you think that everything about Samsung is about electronics. But when you go to South Korea, you will see that they are also a furniture maker. They also build houses. You would see that Hyundai also build ships.
Not just cars.
Yeah. You see that Samsung build other things. These are conglomerates. That was a launch that changed the face of state capitalism. What did they do? They got people together, funded them to set up businesses with Korea threat, Korea culture, Korea mindset, Korean everything. Look at where South Korea is today. But you know something I used to tell people, I say, look, democracy and poverty does not mix together. For a country to be responsibly democratic, that country should first and foremost have a certain level of literacy rate, one. Also have a certain level, a lower level of poverty rate, two. And also get to a certain level of high standard of living, that people will want to protect that standard of living by not voting in a stupid person. If you have a large number of your people still willing to sell their vote for 2,000, democracy cannot work for you. You get it? And these people have nothing to lose. So they just sell their vote for, collect 5,000 and go and tell you, say, what is it? That was why even in the earlier days of thought development about democracy in Europe, they didn't have universal adult suffrage. Not everybody could vote, because the idea then was that if you don't have anything at stake, you have no right voting. Because if you don't have anything to lose by voting in a bad leader, it means that for you, any leader can go. Let those who have something to lose be the ones that vote. That was when, until you have universal adult suffrage in places like England, it was people who have land, who have businesses, who have this thing that can vote, because they believe that if you have something at stake, it will influence your thought about thinking for the betterment of the community, of the society. That if you have something to lose, you won't vote for anyhow person.
And you won't be easily bought too, as it is in
Yeah,
Nigeria.
so I mean, if you have a company that's worth 1 billion, will you go and collect 5,000 to vote for somebody? No. So that's where the challenge of democracy is. And over time, there has been, apart from South Korea, Chile was the third country in the Western Hemisphere to join the Organization of Economic Development, OECD country, which is an organization of 26 most prosperous nations on earth. Chile defeated poverty under General Pinochet. It wasn't democracy. It was General Augusto Pinochet that invited the 50 economists, what they call the Chicago boys, from Chicago Business School, to come and design the Chilean economic mandate. So those economists came from Chicago and worked with the Catholic University of Chile to design the template that launched Chile from a backward country, a backward poverty-ridden country, to a decent. Brazil, the Plano Real that launched Brazil into an industrial giant, was designed by Roberto Cardoso, and he was the Minister of Finance. It was under a military dictatorship. They designed it. Are you talking about China? Are you talking about Taiwan? Are you talking about Vietnam? Now, are you talking about United Arab Emirates? Are you talking about, look at Qatar, look at Singapore. I'm giving you examples of countries that have scaled this. None of them did it as democratic. Yet we have example of some of them, after becoming rich, then they imbibe democracy. Like Brazil, like Chile, like South Korea, you know. But first and foremost, it wasn't democracy that launched them into
It got to the point where they were ripe for democracy.
democracy. Yeah, a country gets ripe for democracy.
Got it. All right, Mercy, your question, and then two of you can go and invite two other people.
Okay then. Thank you, sir, for
Just draw the
session.
mic to your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
In anywhere I come from, there's this saying they call Obanje, whereby for instance, if the Ogbanje possesses a lady, the lady will find it so difficult to get married, or if eventually the lady gets married,
they have a spirit husband and
good spirit husband and spirit wife. So I want to know, as a well-traveled person, is it an ethnical belief, or is a worldwide something? How can we be free from religious slavery?
well, this is a very complex question in the sense that it doesn't have an answer.
Okay.
But it can only get an explanation. Yeah, because I used to ask sometime few years ago, I went home, I was addressing the villagers. There's something we are doing. I was addressing the villagers. Then you know what I asked them? I say, how come our beautiful young girls are no more Obanje?
As they used to be.
As they used to be. Before, any beautiful young girl, before you know it, she will start acting somehow, and they start doing. I say, how come now we don't have Obanje anymore? You know, a people's belief dictates what happens to them.
Okay.
When people believe in certain things, and also there was an industry There was an industry that Obanje was feeding an industry. You know, they have in my place, they used to call it Owumiri industry, whereby you have all those women that go to the river
Yes.
and they put all those things, and they have their own shrine. It's women, you know, those women that are in charge of some of those things. Owumiri and those, it was an industry. And for you, if you understand the economies very well, you understand that those women also, they need to feed. They need to be in business.
And there need to be a problem for them to be in business.
That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying. They need to solve a problem. But that does not invalidate people's lived experiences. Because even inside the city, you hear this issue of spirit husband, spirit wife, and all those kind of things.
Yes.
You know, some things, there are certain things you cannot argue against if you have not experienced it. You get it?
Yes.
Because sometimes you ask yourself, why would such a woman be having this kind of experience and those kind of thing? Why would she be saying this? Why would she? But you cannot invalidate it. You cannot cancel whatever she's saying outright if you don't know what is happening to her. She is the one who has that experience. She's the one who knows. I spoke with a young lady, you know, she was my friend. She used to tell me, as I say, this man you talk about, does he come in the daytime or does he come in your dream? She said he started coming in the dream, but there were sometimes he comes in the daytime when she is alone. I say, are you sure you were sleeping? Or, you know, you can be, you know, this REM. You know, you can be in a period of REM whereby things will happen to you. You think it's in real life. You don't know whether it's in real life or it's in a dream. You don't know whether this thing happened in real life, you know, when you're having a rapid eye movement. And, you know, let me give you an example. Growing up, you know, this thing that presses you down when you're sleeping and won't allow you to do it.
Yes.
I suffered
it.
I suffered for it. After some time, when after I came to Lagos to do my youth service and those kind of thing, I went to they say it's a spiritual and those kind of thing. I suffered for it. This thing tormented me for years until the day I subscribed to Psychology Today. And I started reading about rapid eye movement. And I started reading about how your inability to move from your wake state to your sleep state. There's an in-between between your awake state and your sleeping state, where we call REM. That in-between, you start hallucinating as if something is pressing you down. And that place, you want to open your mouth to talk, you won't talk. You want to open your mouth to run. You want to, you know, stretch your leg to, as if you are being tied down with something.
Wow.
Then I delved deeply and studied it more and more, and understand. I studied into the science of sleep, understand a lot of things that happen about sleeping, and how that region, that in-between region of whether you are, you know, there are some people who can stand up from their bed, go to the toilet and pee and come back while they're still sleeping.
That is correct.
Their eyes are still closed. They will open the door, climb the staircase, do all these things and come back. Rapid eye movement. So when you study some of these things, you find out that a lot of things happen to the mind that you can't just explain. But it was after I got the knowledge from a scientific point of view, that was when that rubbish stopped tormenting me. Okay. Knowledge is liberating.
That is correct.
When I got that knowledge that this thing is not spiritual, it's not maybe I was sleeping with somebody and that person put his leg on top of me, or it's not that there's one spider somewhere that is doing this and that's what is dragging me. It was when I got that knowledge from a science-based psychological point of view. That's when I knew that, and that's when it also, when I want to sleep, I prepare myself to sleep. And when I prepare myself to sleep, I make sure that I studied about sleeping, the study of sleeping. Wow. I studied about how from my own, if there is light in the room, I will not sleep. If there is light entering from the curtain or this thing, I will not sleep. So when I go to bed to sleep, I make sure every light is, even charge all these charging ports. I don't buy a charger that has a light, a blinker. I don't have anything that has a blinker in my room.
Okay.
Everything goes off. And when I want to sleep, I leave my phone in the sitting room. So nothing. So, and when I started doing this thing, I found out that I could control my sleep. So that's how knowledge can liberate us from some of these things.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You say something. Can I ask him a question?
No, you've asked enough. Bring in 2 people again.
Okay.
Both of you can go. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Sorry, there's no time for most of these questions. So, Messi. Sorry. Yeah. So, the next question I want to ask is, sometimes when I think about the things that happens in this world, the injustice, the inequality, the war, the poverty, the hunger, and all of these vices that we suffer as human beings, sicknesses and all of that, I ask myself, who should we blame for it? Should we blame ourselves, or should we blame God that sits silently and watch without doing anything about it? So who do you think we should blame? Is it ourselves?
It is not.
Or God, who is so powerful that he could change all of these things, and yet he's not doing
even
it?
God that is so powerful that can change everything also told you that he has given you the earth to go and dominate the earth. It was in the Bible. It's in the Bible, not it was. To go out there and dominate, have dominion over everything. So, which means that the earth, a friend of mine, Kichi, there was a time we were discussing some of this. He told me, he said that the earth is the playground of men. It's not God's business. That's why, that's where I got this. And God does not get himself involved in who you elect in your elections. God is not involved in your elections. God is not involved in your football. You get it? If you elect a good man. After all, the Bible made it clear that when the righteous rules, people rejoice. There's prosperity. But when the evil man is empowered, there's gnashing of teeth. It's clearly in the Bible. So if the Bible can make this thing clear, it should tell you that God does not have a hand in who rules you and who does not rule you. It is men that decide who rules you and who does not rule you. That's one, at a national and subnational level. Okay, let me give you an example now. If you go to Abia State now and ask everybody in Abia State, how do you rate your governor? You will find out that the answer they will give you would be different from the answer they would have given you 5 years ago. What happened? The people of Abia State elected someone who seemed to understand what governance is all about, even though he is not perfect, but he seemed to understand what governance is all about, and he seemed to have a way of delivering governance promptly. That's it. This is where they are now. See now, people can go see everybody going talking about good roads, talking about like a street light and all those kind of things. That Abia is this, Abia is this, Abia is this. So when you talk about states that are poorly governed now, Abia has left
the WhatsApp
group where Benue and Kogi,
where they used to be admins
and all those kind of things. Yeah, they were the admin of that WhatsApp group. They've left it. So you see that kind of thing. That's how that's at that level. Then secondly, there is also geography. I used to talk about that geography is destiny, and a lot of people don't seem to understand it. Geography is destiny. That is the way it is. Let me give you an example. Do you think that if you were born in Zamfara, you might be where you are today? But that does not mean that there are no people born in Zamfara that are doing better than you. But for every individual, your environment is the major determinant of where you will be in your future. Because your environment gives you your school. Your environment gives you access to healthcare. Do you know how many people who could not walk because they lived in an environment whereby they had this thing we've eradicated it now, that
Triatis.
that used to make people, that used to affect people's poliomyelitis.
Polio.
If you were born in the village or an environment where poliomyelitis were so rampant and the burden is so much, and it affected you, your entire life, your destiny has already changed. Another thing is also, if you were born, say, in Sokoto, it affects your religion. And your religion has a way of influencing your choices in life. You get it? That's how geography is destiny. So it affects people one way or the other. People who didn't have schools around their villages and they didn't have what it takes to walk far, or even in a village where I grew up, having a bicycle in the family, a bicycle that is free, that you can use to ride to go to a secondary school that is far from your village, is a determinant of how far you can go. So many younger people could not go to secondary schools that are far. They couldn't afford the living burden in a boarding house, and they didn't have a bicycle. Not having a bicycle, they didn't go to school. That's environment. If you had that school just a walking distance, haven't you noticed that people who have schools walking distance to their homes are far more, have a higher level of literacy rate than people that didn't have schools very close to where they live? Let me explain to you. Even in highly advanced societies, geography is still destiny. There was Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State of the United States of America. In her book, she said something. She said that if I look at a child's zip code, if I look at the zip code where a child is born, I can look at the zip code and I tell how far that child can go in life. Zip code is just like if this is state now. Because in that zip code influences the school the child will go to. And it's not just the school. You know, there's this concept of a good school with a bad teacher and a bad school with a good teacher. Which one influences the child more?
And then the students too.
That's what
the
I'm telling
people you meet.
That's what I'm telling you. We did a study in Lagos 4 years ago, and we found out that the farther a secondary school is from the main center, either in the island or in the mainland, the poorly run that secondary school is.
Okay.
So the schools you see inside Yaba, Surulere, Ikeja, Festac Town, Lagos Island, VI, Ikoyi, these schools are better managed, they are better run, and their students are also more intelligent, and their students also have more access to other things. When you see their students, you will know those schools were better than schools you find in Ikorodu, you find in Abula Ado, all those kind of places, Janiki, and all those kind of things. Which means that the farther a school is away from where the world sees, because one, no good teacher will want to be posted there. You're getting this? A top-ranked teacher will not want to be posted there. She want to be posted at Methodist Girls High School, Yaba, or State Anglican Girls High School. You know those kind of other schools around, or King's College or Queen's College, and all this. That's where she want to be posted. And because they don't want to be posted there, the teachers that are there are those that will be there. They'll come to class and they'll be maybe be eating granola because there's class quiet. The children will be doing what they like, and the teacher will have the attitude of "I no kill myself" attitude. So you see how environment influences. Then you go and get a school in Badia. Have a school in Badia, whereby there are street clashes almost on a weekly basis and all those kind of things. It will affect the kid. A kid that was born in Badia is not the same as a kid that was born in Central Surulere. They are not the same. I'm using Lagos because this place I know, and same thing happens in everywhere. I remember when we were growing up, want to go to secondary school. From where I come from, in Mbise then, every parent want their child. We had about 5 boys' school, 5 girls' school, and 2 old Miss school with St. Patrick's and the Paternoster. I know. So we have it. But every child wants his son to go to Mbise Secondary School or Mbise Girls High School. Because these were the old days. They will say, I went there. And because your father went to that school, your father is an old boy or your mother is an old girl of that school, most of the teachers who are teaching there were old students from that school. Their zeal, the way they want the school to be, they want the school to maintain its steez. This is known for it. They want it. And some of the people who are also in government, either in the Ministry of Education or in positions of authority to influence government impact on education, went to that school. So they will be able to supervise and make sure that that school, whenever there's anything that they're sharing on that school gets it first. So it's geography, it's destiny. But we also have geographical determinism. You get it? You have geographical determinism and you have geographical possibilism. I don't want to go too deep into this thing. When you talk about geographical determinism, yes, this is where I was born. I did my best, but my best is not good enough because of this environment. I did my best. When you were passing through during your time, there were so many kids that were coming first in primary school. You go to secondary school, you didn't see them again. There were so many kids that were coming first in secondary school. They didn't go to university. I know a guy that did A1 in secondary school in mathematics, did A1 in additional mathematics, A1 in physics, but he couldn't go to university. You get it? Because the mother couldn't raise, was it 25 naira to buy jam form? You get it? I know so many kids that drop out because they couldn't get 35 naira for WAEC form during my time. 1987, WAEC form was 35 naira. You might think, 35 naira. 35 naira, that was what some families could not raise it. So if those kids lived in states where the government were paying for the work of everybody, you see how geography, their destiny would have been changed.
Yeah.
You get it? I grew up, I was a kid at a time when rally bicycle was being sold for 90 naira. How many people in my village had rally bicycle then? Only one man had the Mercedes Benz. 3 people, 544 saloon car, 2 Beatles. So when you come to church on Sunday, you see, we know everybody, we know everybody. Then you see bicycle. How many people had the bicycle? Having a bicycle then could change a family's fortune. You could go to a good secondary school that is far because there is a bicycle in your. You see, people don't see these things because people don't think deeply. They don't understand these things from a deeper perspective. That's why they keep on, they talk anyhow, they do anyhow, but they don't know. There are things within your power. There are things that are outside your power. So when you talk about possibilism, I had 1 or 2 friends that had to go to construction site to carry cement and carry block. One of them that was a close friend of mine, I followed him once to keep him company and do that thing. That was how he raised his WAEC fees. That's geographical possibilism. When you rise up and say, no matter what, if I die, I die. But it's not everybody that has that zeal and that opportunity. And because somebody achieved it and you use it to judge another person, it shows also that you don't understand certain nuances about human beings. So these are how geography influences your destiny, influences everything you do, and affects you, both your religion and everything. Okay, let me give you an example. Do you know that it's not medieval, in England, do you know why the Protestants in Europe, do you know why the Protestants had upper hand over the Catholics? It's religious. But nobody has sat down to analyze some of these things. The Protestants were more educated than the Catholics. Do you know why? The Protestants were allowed to read Bible
Themselves.
The Catholics were not reading Bible. The reading of the Bible, at that time, the Bible was the only book you can see in a family. You come into a family, the only thing they have as a book was the Bible. So those families that were able to read Bible develop a reading culture earlier than families that didn't read Bible. And you can see, when you look at the map of Europe, you will see how Protestant countries developed faster and better than Catholic countries. That was why the Scandinavians took off. Germany, Britain, Austria, Netherlands, Norway, all of them took off. Whereas Spain, Portugal, France, Italy were struggling because they were the Catholic countries.
Mm-hmm.
You get it? The Industrial Revolution, Calvinism was a Protestant Protestant concept, a mindset about work, the work ethics, the Protestant work ethics that that people started learning from business schools and all those kind of things. This thing came from church, came from the Protestant church, the Protestant ethics. The Catholics didn't have this opportunity. That was why England had upper hand. And then the things that happened in Ireland when they were fighting for their liberation and independence from Britain, and they had so many. Is a deep, religion is deeper than a lot of people understand. Do you know that there was a time, if you're a Catholic, you're not allowed to walk in Guinness in Ireland and in Britain, because you're a Catholic. You're not allowed to walk in Guinness in Ireland and Britain, because Sir Arthur Guinness then was a Protestant.
So you needed Protestants, not Catholics.
Yeah, that's yeah. So when even if I go deep into Arthur, the Guinness itself, the philosophy behind the company itself, if I go into it, won't live here today. Is a study on itself. But I will just I brought this thing up so that you also know how divided some of those countries were as at then, and to also know that the kind of division we are also seeing today, some of the primitive divisions we're seeing today in Africa and in our country, Nigeria, shows the level we are, civilizational speaking, compared to where those people were. Which means that this is where these guys were, say, 100 years ago, 200, 300 years ago. Why are we still, with the benefit of knowledge we have gained from them, why do we want to reinvent the wheel? Why do we want to follow the path instead of flying over that path?
You talked about the Bible.
Yeah.
I want to ask, do you think that the Bible contains the true account of creation? And does it truly represent the the will of God? Does it truly represent the way of God? Or is it just a book that contains the Jewish culture and way of life?
Is this a complex question? It doesn't have an answer. Basically, the Bible contains the word of God, but not everything in the Bible is the word of God. There's also the word of the devil. Did you hear? There was a place in the Bible when he was asked the devil, what are you doing? He said, I'm going through and fro, seeking for whom to destroy. That thing is not the word of God, it's the word of the devil. You get it? When he asked Jesus Christ to jump from a distance, it's the devil. So the Bible contains the word of God, the word of the devil, the word of men, and the word of women, and also the word of children. And it also encapsulates, because there is no way you will a book like that will be devoid of the Hebrew and the Jewish culture. It's also a book of history. At least it tells you about a time when the Romans conquered Jerusalem, when Jerusalem was an outpost of the Roman conqueror during the time of Caesar, which historians have already analyzed it, and they found out that it matched with the history of Rome during Caesar's reign. They found that. So it's also a book of history. It's also a book of culture, the Jewish culture. Because majority of some of the things you see there, some of the rules, some of the regulations were also Judaism. Because when Jesus Christ came, Jesus Christ was practicing Judaism. You get it? Both him and his disciples, they were practicing the
Judaism.
religion of their. It was after the death of Jesus Christ that Christianity was birthed. Because Jesus Christ brought a new perspective to what everybody has been doing. And he said, do it this way. Yes, this is what the law said, but I say, do it this way. Yes, this is what your ancestors said. This is what the Moses told you. But I'm telling you now, do it this way. So the encapsulation of all those things that Jesus said was what gave birth to Christianity. So the Bible encapsulates everything. And also, when you read other books, when you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read the Quran, you read some of those things, you find out all those elements That's why you can't divorce the Quran from Arabic culture. It's there. I was trying to ask somebody the other time. I say, it's not Islam, because I've been to different Islamic countries all over the world. I said, but the tea culture, you find out that it influences almost every society that is rooted in Islam. But the tea culture is not Islamic, it is Arabic. Because Arabs have that tea culture, both tea and coffee. They have it. It was even the Arabs that took coffee from Ethiopia to Europe. Coffee was discovered in Ethiopia, but it was regarded as the devil's drink, because when you finish taking coffee, the way it energizes you. So it was the Arabs that took it to Europe. And when the Pope tested it, he said, no, we are not going to allow these infidels
to enjoy this,
to control this drink. So the Pope beatified the drink. Let's not go there. So that's the way. So that's it.
How about, when Christians are asked to prove that, God truly exists, they share testimonies of how God fought their battles, dealt with their enemies, and all of that. And when you think about our ancestors, especially our Igbo ancestors, I don't know about others, you also hear or read where that they used to have a god, several gods.
They
the
have
Amadiohas and the rest.
Yeah.
So
polytheism.
Yes, who also dealt with their enemies, fought injustices, helped them to win their wars, and all of that. So does this mean that the same God our forefathers worshipped and the same God that the Christians are worshiping now, does it mean that they are the same? And if they are the same, why do we keep demonizing our forefathers? And call them...
I'm not part and parcel of those who demonize our forefathers. But let me give you an inkling. The Igbo, let's take African traditional religion. The Igbo denomination of the African traditional religion, which has that if you come in that cosmology, we have the Allah, the earth goddess, is a she. The preeminent Igbo deity is a she, which is the earth goddess. And we have the Amadioha, which some people say that Amadioha is the husband of the Allah. But some people think otherwise. Then you have different gods and goddesses. There's one that interests me, because I wrote something during the New Yam Festival about the difference between Ihanjoko and Iriji. Because a lot of people mix the two together. Ihanjoko happens 7 days before the Iriji. Ihanjoko is the god of yam. You get it? So you appease it before the Mendelssohn. But there's something that's also interesting. Ihanjoko is a she. And is the god of yam. But according to Igbo culture and tradition, yam is a man's crop. Cocoyam is a woman's crop. But the god of cocoyam is a he. Isn't it? So there's some of these things. But the basic thing is also, in that Igbo cosmology, we also had that Chiuku,
the Almighty God.
Oseborowa. You get it? So our ancestors acknowledge the fact that in spite of all these gods and goddesses, there is also the Chi-Ukwu. Some people call Chineke, God the Creator, Osebrowa, whom everybody bows. So we tells you that our ancestors believed that there is also a superior one, and that all these other ones are the emissaries of the superior one. You know that originally in Igbo cosmology, Ekwensu is not the devil. Ekwensu is not the devil.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a mischievous,
Cunning.
mischievous deity that is not the devil. In fact, the concept of Satan does not exist in Igbo cosmology. The concept of Satan does not exist. It does not exist. It was Christianity that brought it. And when Christianity came, and that's why the same man that influenced both Bishop Ajayi Crowther, he also introduced that same concept in Yoruba cosmology, Eshu. Because the Yorubas also have a similar thing, Eshu, to our own Ekwensu, which when you dig deeper, you find out that these are not really Satan as in the devil, the one that fought with God and all those kind of, that causing all the havoc and all this kind of thing. We didn't have that. Our ancestors, we didn't have that in our destiny. We didn't have that. So those are some of the things. But the thing is that when Christianity came, there is also a need to create models that convey what Christianity believes in. And when you look at all the rascally deities and the rascally gods, so it was the Ekwensu that came closer in fitting the description of the devil. So with Dasham,
That title.
that title. So that's why it became enemies and enemies and this kind of thing. So that's where
So what exactly is the difference? Because I mean, the Igbo pattern of worship before Christianity, the cosmology, we have the Almighty God, which is Chukwu or Chineke. In Christianity, we have the Almighty God.
Yeah.
We don't have the other small gods. In some Christian beliefs, they believe that Jesus Christ is not God. In Catholic, for example, this Trinity, one God, we have Jesus, we have. So, if our forefathers believed in the Almighty God and then other smaller gods, and the Christians believe there's Jesus, there is a Almighty God, there are angels, archangels, and all of that. So why do we keep saying that our forefathers, that Christianity is superior to what our forefathers practiced?
Yeah, because we are saying so. That we are saying so does not mean that it is so. We are just saying so. Based on the limitations of our own knowledge and on understanding.
And what we choose to believe.
Yeah, what we choose to believe anyway.
Thank you. Your question. What's your name again?
My name is Adam.
Ada. Please, this is our Mommy Gio. When I saw her this morning, the first thing I called her is Mommy Gio. She looks like Mommy Gio.
Yes.
We are concerned to that.
So please just draw the mic close to yourself. Yeah, and ask your question. Make it brief. Just one.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming. I had a question I wrote down for you. Coming to this place, I had to change it. While you were talking, I had to change it again. So I'm going to go with the one that I just changed now.
The last one.
Yes. And it's revolving around dreams. Dream. Someone to dream and all of that. In Omenala way, paganism, people do Ibafa to tell you the future or something that is about to happen. So bringing it to Christianity, people believe that some persons have gift of vision, dream, to see what is about to happen in future, something like that. Why some persons kick against this? Some persons say it's fallacy, some persons don't believe in it. So I want to understand or know if there is something like dream, if people actually have this gift of seeing the future, just like in Omenala way, that when they do Ibafa, they see future, they see what happened. So in Christianity, are there people gifted with such things to dream and see what happens in future? Because some churches today, you see people telling you this is going to happen, this will happen. At the end of it, or it will not come to pass. Some do come to pass that it makes you to actually think that this is real. So I want to understand whether dream as a concept exists, whether people do have dream, vision, seeing what is about to happen tomorrow, and it eventually comes to pass. That's what I want to understand.
Okay. That's now we are delving into spiritualism, psychoanalysis, and yeah, if you studied Carl Gustav Jung, he did a lot of work in that area and stuff like that. Like there's a similar question I answered earlier. Some of these things are, you don't have a right or wrong answer to some of these things. And dream and dream interpretation has been there for a long time and across cultures. After all, Joseph dreamt. In the Bible, Joseph dreamt, and if you go through the Bible, there are also a lot of other dreams that were interpreted and ones that were not interpreted. And if you study other religious and other cultures, you also find a place of dream and interpreters of dream and stuff like that. In Igbo land, there was a place you use the word pagan. Well, that's what the other people called it, paganism and all this kind of thing, which descriptively I understand what you mean, in as much as it's not really, pagan like that. But the thing is just that, but in Igbo land, yes, the rule, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting because some of the things you do in the churches in Africa are things you can only see in the churches in Africa. Like all these things now, you go to a pastor and the pastor will tell you what is going to happen, this. You go to some churches in Europe and North America, they don't do that kind of thing. So that is syncretism. We are bringing the things we are doing in our destiny, bringing it into our Christianity. It's kind of like all this enemy die. It's also part of our
fire prayer.
It's also part of our belief system in our cultures in Africa. We believe we also have enemies that are trying to kill us and all this kind of thing that have to do. So we transported those things into Christianity. That's why there are certain things. In my church, I've had in as much as we have a central doctrinal belief in the church, in our church, which every member of that church is supposed to adhere to. But I've attended that same church in 23 countries. And I've been able to see that even in this central belief system that is the foundation of this church, when you move from one country to another country, you will still see different spices.
Something changes.
Either these people add ginger their own, these people add garlic in their own, these people add salt in there. You see the influence of culture in some of these things. So as people move, they carry their atmosphere, they carry their culture, and they marry it with their destiny the way they are used to. Because we are used to going to the Dibiafa to find out what is the future, what this is what we see, or this is what we see. So when we enter the church, we expect a pastor to also be our own Dibiafa to either foretell or to foretell. But foretelling and foretelling is not really is in Christianity we have it. People can prophesy. Prophesy upon you, prophesy on this. But the issue we also have is that it's not every prophecies that will come true. It's not. There are also prophecies. God said that this person is going to be this, and the person did not. The thing did not happen because God, as I said earlier, God has also given us the power to rule our world. There was that king that the prophet went to tell that he's going to die in Hezekiah. So do you think God has not, before God sent the prophet, that God has not concluded the Hezekiah case and closed the chapter? He has concluded. But what changed God? Is it not Hezekiah that changed God?
Yes.
That's what I was telling earlier, that we also have a role to play in changing what happens to us. If Hezekiah had just sat down, okay, now they say I'm going to die. Kill me one lamb, fatten lamb, and all this kind. Let me eat it and die.
My last supper.
He will eat it and die. But he took a decision that changed the whole thing, and he lived for up to 15 years or so.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. So you find that that's the way. So there's a role human beings have to play for the thing that was spoken upon you. I remember I went to one church one time. I went to one church. The prophetess made some pronouncements, business pronouncements about me. I was just saying, my mind was just saying that, but that's not my area. This not the industry. It's not my area. It's not my industry. That this prophetess is prophesying now that I'm going to do this. It's not my area.
And they're not planning to
I'm
go
not
there.
where this prophecy is not coming to the area. But as I was going, I remember one thing. There was one thing my pastor preached some time ago, that we should be ready for any sector. He say, educate yourself, expand your horizon of your knowledge, be ready for everything. You don't know where God is going to place you. Then there's one man in my village that used to say something jokingly. He said that if he do sign of the cross in front, he would tell the wife to do it at his back, because we don't know where God is coming from. So when that woman said that, I didn't even think it. I didn't say that. I tell myself, I say, what will I lose to believe? I believed. So along the line, when somebody called me from South Africa, that there is this company in Turkey and they need to so this in. Do I know anybody who can help to link it up? That's how I started going into an industry that I knew nothing about, which was also in line with what that woman was saying. Though the first business did not work out, second one did not work out, but open doors keep on opening in that line of business. I say, God, if this is truly an area you want me to have this in, let this business work out, so that at least let me have a fruit. So you see how these things happen.
Yes.
So it's just the way. But the thing is just that, like, it's the failure of the first business that also led me to start examining things I could have done that I did not do. In as much as the company I contacted in Nigeria, the guy they introduced me to have a very bad communication attitude. You sent him WhatsApp message, it will be there for 48 hours, 70 hours, which is crazy for me. I hate it's crazy for me. And then you make a call, he will not respond. And all kind of thing. Then I start asking myself, could I have done anything different? I contacted the company. They gave me a staff to work with me. And this staff is, could I have done anything different? So when I have a second opportunity, instead of relying on one source, I keep on, everybody I'm talking to, after discussing with you, I say, oh boy, there is these people that need so and so thing. If you know anywhere, people, and these are big quantity, not somebody, not retail, not wholesale. This is big. I keep on telling everyone, maybe that's why the first one fell. If I had opened my mouth and told a lot of people, you don't know. Sometimes in life, you don't know You don't know what you don't know. And you don't know who is the next link to open and give you an information that will open a door. So sometimes when you try to keep quiet and keep things to yourself, some of these things die with you. They won't manifest. But of which, if you had opened up and say so and so, so and so, you don't know whether that person, I was discussing with somebody. I was in Cotonou for a meeting. The meeting was delaying. So I was discussing with someone. We were discussing something else about Nigeria, Wahala, and all those kind of things. We were discussing Wahala because I was telling the person that there's a job I saw Judas Berger doing in Cotonou. The way they're doing it, I was talking about future proofing. They are doing this thing, and the ones they do in Nigeria, the person told me that it's what we signed that they will deliver to us in Nigeria. So why we are doing that thing? The Holy Spirit say, why not tell this guy about this thing? I told him, I say, look at this product, look at this product, so and so product. When he said he will call somebody, he called somebody. Within 5 minutes, he called me back. He said that when he called that person, the person started laughing. He said, why is he laughing? He said that the person said that he was discussing that thing with another of his business partner, that if he's looking for the source of this thing 5 minutes ago, you get that, you see it. So if I had not, you understand some of this. So sometimes people will tell you to incubate your dreams. Don't speak it out. Don't speak it out. Maybe there are some dreams you don't incubate. If you incubate it, it's like some of this chicken. If you had the privilege of growing up in the village, you will know that there are some fowls that sit on their egg without hatching them. Sometimes we'll go and chase them out and collect the eggs from them. Because the more they overstay there, the more the eggs will become spoiled. We'll remove the egg from them because they are unable to hatch it. So there are some dreams that if you keep it with yourself, you won't be able to hatch.
Thank you, sir. The next question I want to ask is, you see, in the Southeast, today, there are so many young and old people who claim that they are practicing the tradition of our forefathers. They call themselves all kinds of names, the likes of Akwokoko. I don't know if you know this popular Anambra native doctor. He says he's a native doctor and he can make people rich, can kill one's enemies. There are so many of them like that. Soludo has started arresting them. I think these ones are still in police custody or prison or wherever Soludo kept them. So these people, are they truly practicing the Igbo tradition, or they are practicing witchcraft and all kinds of things?
I've addressed that issue in one or two occasions about when I wrote about the culture of our people, the tradition, the custom, and also the dynamism, the changes that we've experienced over time. But the thing is that what you have to look at is the values. I keep on talking about even where the culture, dynamism of the culture is causing changes. What of the values? And the first thing you have to look out for in the olden days, there are different types of dibias, but the first one we normally have, every community has a seer, which is also referred to as the eyes of the gods, and which is the chief priest. You either have a chief priest or you have a chief priestess. And the chief priest and the chief priestess are the spiritual custodians of every community. Then we also had dibias. These other people are not that priests. They're not dibias per se, in as much as sometimes they can move into the curative aspect or but they are not That's not their specialization. Then you have the DBS who are into medicine, traditional medicine, and some of them focus only on the medical aspect without adding the spiritual. I saw many of them while growing up, even in my village. I knew those who were focusing, who never had any spiritual thing added to their destiny. People who were sick of different ailments do come to them. And then we knew even specializations, that if you have so and so issue, go to so person. If it is so and so person, go to so and so person. There's a man from my place, his own is basically ear and those things. He would just go. There was a time he took me to the bush and showed me some of those things. It helps. You just put it, and put the water inside the ear. The thing will go. And some of these people, interestingly, they don't charge. They don't charge you for anything. They say whatever you feel like, you just give. They don't charge. It wasn't a business, because most of them were also engaged in other trades.
That is correct.
And it's always handed from lineage. Yes. It's a lineage thing. There was a family in my place that we call them Nchikalata Obobo. Gathering of bones. That's what. No matter how bad you have issues with breakage of bone or legs, accident, no matter how bad that, they used to bring people from orthopedic to there. The man will pieces and set everything, and everything will heal. You start asking that, how did they marry? The man is dead now. His children are handling it. But they say it's in the lineage. So we had all these people. Then there were those who were involved in mysticism, Igbo mysticism and all those kind of things. They say they can do this, they can do this. You see this idea, the idea of Ogwego. It never existed in our culture. I'm telling you, it never existed in our culture. Because it goes against everything that the Igbo values. Hard work. The idea that somebody will make money without working is on Igbo. It's not in our culture. The idea of getting money through diabolic is not. It was never there in our tradition. It was never there in our culture. I knew when the term Ogwego came into the lexicon, Igbo lexicon, that somebody went somewhere and they did something, and the person, it was an imported belief into our destiny, and people embraced it. Some people embraced it. Some keep on doubting it up to today, that nothing like that exists and stuff like that. But it was not a cultural thing. It was not a traditional thing. We had of people who go and do some things, and that if you use knife on them, it will not enter, and those kind of things, especially those masquerade and that are DK, and they've done this. But you see this one about money, Egombute and Ogwego. It wasn't in Igbo culture. It was not there. It's corruption. It's a value corruption that brought about this, and it's also a kind of corruption that encapsulates so many other corruptions that has to do with everything that value disalignment. It manifests in different forms. Cultism and all those kind of stuff that are related to it, and everything is not an Igbo thing that, is not, it never existed. It never existed. And if you read every pre-colonial account of the Igbo, you find out that that never existed. It wasn't really part of us. It was it's a corruption of our value system, and that's why it's rampant all over now. And even the people who said that they want to go back to the ways of their forefathers left the pathways of their forefathers and following the things they're not supposed to follow. I mean, we know the ways of our forefathers. We know about Ofonogu. We know about Ojofogana. We know about the core values of all those things. Ekubakoto and all those are the values of our forefathers. Our forefathers, those are the core values. We gather together, we decide, and those kind of thing, we do it. Not what you're seeing now.
It's really a danger, especially among the
young people. It has destroyed the psyche of the young people.
It has. Today you hear Okite, sharp money. Nobody even want to listen to anybody. Everybody wants it sharp. And then earlier you stated that, of course, there must be a problem for an industry to thrive.
Those people are
they've capitalized on this trend for quick money.
I call them spiritpreneurs.
And it's they enrich themselves a whole lot. I've also heard from people who say that these people use this DB of a thing as a front
to do other things.
They are kidnappers, organ harvesting, and the rest of it. It's really appalling. Thank you for giving clarity to that. The next question I want to ask is, as a journalist, a renowned journalist who've had success in your profession, traveled the world and all of that, which do you think is more dangerous to a nation? A lack of information or misinformation?
Okay, basically, both misinformation and lack of information, they're all a no-no for a society. I mean, there's no way society can grow if you have any of those. But what we are suffering now is more of misinformation instead of lack of information. But sometimes also misinformation is also a product of lack of information, because where this one is not there, this one also utilizes it, nature abhors vacuum. So where this one is not there. But also we need to make clarification about information. A lot of people don't understand. Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is different. Information is different. You might have an information about something, but you don't know anything about that thing. But knowledge is after distilling that information, what comes out from that distillation. That's what knowledge, and that's what you can work on. You can't work on information. You work on information, you are likely going to make mistake, because you don't know how you're just, it's like plucking something from the air. But it's very important for every society. But I'm afraid for the world we are living in today. We are living in a censored world whereby the freedom of expression is being totally caged. It's being caged by societies, by governments all over the world, and the level of surveillance all over the world now is getting higher and higher, and government agencies and non-governmental organizations are infiltrating people's know-how, what people know. You might not know the level. If you visit Citizens Lab and know the level of infiltration that the world is going through today, whereby even your televisions are spying on you, your electronic equipment in your house, all of them are spying on you. Your car is also spying on you. I mean, your phone, whether it's switched off or switched on, is also listening to you, is spying on you. And these are information that people somewhere can pull out about you, know where you are, know what you're doing, know who you're talking to, and stuff like that. And somebody was asking me the other time, he said, how come that they've designed phones that you can't even remove the batteries.
Mm.
That he was trying to tell me that it is part of a grand strategy. Ordinarily, you can remove the battery and the phone is dead, but now, as soon as the phone is there, switch it off, the phone is still
listening to you.
The phone is listening to you, and the phone is connected to the closest base station. So if somebody wants to track you, wants to know where you are, they use the closest base station. But that is technology of yesterday. Technology of today is that the phone will enter inside the house, connect with the television, connect with everything inside the house to tell those tracking you the exact place you are. And now people are living in I call it a serialized world. They enter Siri, where is water to drink? Siri, where is it? Now you're handing your entire life onto Siri. So Siri will tell
Siri
you
has become a monitoring spirit.
and you don't know that Siri is also controlling your life. It's happening. We are seeing so many things that are happening even to electric cars. People enter into electric cars shutting them off and doing what they want. And this is an age where artificial intelligence is getting crazy. We don't know where it's going to take us to. We don't know. It's so crazy that the thing is that life developments are happening faster than the human mind can fathom and try to understand. So it's just and some of you to check out some of the messaging apps you have, and they tell you that that this is end-to-end encrypting what what are you encrypting? Do people have back end know what are doing and what's going to you're saying you encrypt? So is the biggest challenge. It's the biggest challenge, and the world needs an alternative source of knowledge that is non-governmental, because I believe that the world government is totally compromised. That's my personal opinion. World government is totally compromised, and they're compromised in such a way that it's not going to be to the benefit of the individuals.
This thing you said yesterday, if not for the level of my exposure with, and knowledge with tech and all of that, yesterday I would have been very scared. Something happened to me. So someone asked for a video of that Chevrolet outside. So I just recorded a short video and sent to the person. Came inside, open my Facebook. The first thing I saw is Chevrolet page. I opened it. Curiously, I opened because I didn't even know. I've never checked their page. And what is shocking is not that I saw the page. What is shocking is that the last time that page was updated was 2018. So the page has not been active since 2018. But somehow the algorithm is showing me a page that has not been active since 2018. Just because I recorded a short video and sent to someone. So it's crazy. You can ask your question now. Please make it brief. We don't have time again.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ka, for the privilege of participation. Thank you for the honor of your presence. We have a lot of questions, but we have to
just ask one, the most important one.
Yes. In the book Why Nations Fail, I found out that James Robinson and Mr. Daron, they hammered so much on the influence politics plays on a nation's institutional, historical, and even economic outcome. And they even further emphasize that in the institutional trajectory of a nation can be influenced by its history. Now, drawing this narrative back to Nigeria and to Igbo, back to the Igbo race, I want to ask, in this case, how has the historical impact of the Biafran War shaped the corporate identity of the Igbo race as an entity, and how has it shaped the Igbo man's perspective as a lone being?
I think there's no non-example or description that one can use to describe the impact of the Biafran War on not even the psyche of the Igbo man, but it has entered the DNA of the Igbo man that is likely going to be with him for a long time to come. So is a tragedy. That's the greatest tragedy that befell the Igbo race. I mean, the tragic aspect of that tragedy was that, I mean, that it got to a level whereby people have to deny their Igbo-ness so that they won't be tagged, they won't have that influence of that failure of that war to follow them about. It's been, I mean, the Biafran War has been one of the biggest influences of policy direction, development policy direction in Nigeria. I mean, we don't have to make any mistake about it. After the failure of the war, they won't tell you, it won't be in your textbook, it won't be in your history book, but there was agreements between the victors of the war that a glass ceiling must be put where the Igbo man is not supposed to go beyond. There was an agreement. Wow. The glass ceiling, and let me tell you, that was why it took almost 40 years to have an Igbo person to be the Controller General of the immigration. As at that time, the idea was that both the military and paramilitary arms of the nation, that none should be headed by an Igbo man. But it took years before you even have an Igbo man as Inspector General of Police. Then you have an Igbo man as Chief of Army Staff. You have an Igbo man as Chief of Naval Staff. And you have an Igbo man as Chief of Air Staff and Chief of Defense Staff. This kind of thing. One of the ministries, Ministry of Interior, Controller General of Custom, Controller General of Immigration, these are areas they say it should be a no-go area for an Igbo man. But also, thanks to the Igbo dexterity in doing things, and also to some people who believe that, like Igbo people used to say that he who is holding someone on the ground is also holding himself on the ground. Because for you to continually and effectively contain that person on the ground, it means that you have to be on the ground with him. For him, it's like that was that song by Asa also, Mr. Jela. So that's the situation we are in Nigeria. Is the Mr. Jela song, don't call me a prisoner. We are, sort of like that. So that's what's happening. But also it has also impacted negatively on the psyche of the Igbo. Why the Generation X were able to go beyond it. Most of them saw it as kids. Most of them, embraced it and the thing. But the thing is that the strength and the power of which that generation launched itself into Nigeria was something never seen. I mean, and the inability of continuation is responsible for where we are today. After the war, the land was devastated. The people started from nothing, but they were able to climb back and climb to enviable level. But that also became their undoing, in that many did not understand that the efforts that the generation before them were put in place to get to where they are. So they embraced all sorts of things. That's why today you see our people embracing hedonism and all those kind of things, and all sorts of show-offism and all those kind of, no, those are not the those are not what it should be. But this is where we are today. But the thing is, there's something we call transgenerational trauma.
Yes.
So even those, in two ways, both the negative effect of the war to those who suffered the kwashiorkor, those who suffered the hunger, those who suffered the poverty, those who couldn't continue with their lives. So many people couldn't continue with school, with everything after the war. They suffered the physical and emotional pain. But there are those who were not born like us. But if you read a little bit about epigenetics, you also know that the sperm of a stressed man carries that stress and can transfer that stress into
the offspring.
Into the offspring. You understand?
It's true, yeah.
So those are also some of the challenges. A lot of people that were born during the war and aftermath of the war also inherited certain things they don't know that they inherited. They inherited certain traumatic situation they don't know that they inherited. And because we have a culture whereby everybody, you are not supposed to talk. They just, chin up, carry it like a man and those kind of things. So many people might have had some challenges that ordinarily they're supposed to go through counseling and all those things to be able to, emancipate themselves from those. But nobody cared about, either they died with it or they just shut their mouth. Whatever the way they were treated, they carried it and, kind of carried it in their heart, bottled it up and carried it. And that was why when the more recent agitation came up, it got exploded beyond a reasonable level, and a lot of people became our mumu button, so that anybody who comes and say the Biafra this, everybody just follow
him.
But because of the bottled up trauma, looking for expression, saw opportunity of expression, and irrespective of whether that opportunity of expression was in the right direction or in the wrong direction, they're just seeking for validated expression, and they express. And that's why when you see a lot of educated people with PhD, people with professors and all those kind of things, following all sorts of agitation and messianic this thing, where they should have shown direction. There's nothing wrong with the agitation. I mean, the call for such actualization is a right. Is a right of every human being to decide his future. Like Bob Marley said, that every man got a right to decide his own destiny, and in this there is no partiality. So is a right. Everybody has the right. Nigerians even should be able to come to the level whereby they ask ourselves, is this the kind of country we want for our kids? Has time not come for us to sit down together and ask ourselves whether we should continue or not? Yeah, but in doing that, you should also temper it with wisdom, temper it with understanding, carry on in a way that you will not become how will I put it? You will not become a threat, an existential threat
to the system,
to that which you want to promote. There's this adage they used to say in Yoruba that a medicine for headache that will require cutting off the head. This is a medicine for headache.
So it requires cutting off the head.
Cutting off the head. That medicine is not acceptable. And as the Igbo people used to say, that wherever you're doing concussion for a sickness, an ailment of the eye, that pepper should not be part of that ingredient.
Exactly.
You get it? So those are the things you look out for. You can't say you want to save a people, you want to liberate a people, and you're also causing them harm. You're causing them existential damage. You're causing them, you're putting them through things that are dehumanizing them, things that are making them laughing stock in the eyes of the world.
To say
And
people you
so-
want to save.
So you can't save somebody and kill the person at the same time. So those are the
You can't give me
contradictions.
cure for headache,
Mm.
only to cut off my head.
Exactly.
So that's where the problem is, and these are something we can't just wish it away because we are looking at it from a peripheral level. But this has ingrained into the mentality of people. You listen to people you think that are highly educated, that are supposed to show direction, show leadership, people who you think are thought leaders, and they are yarning gibberish, and you start asking yourself, where are we? But it's also, sometimes I see it also as a manifestation of the entire polity called Nigeria, where nothing seems to be working, whereby all man to himself, and people don't give a damn about polity thoughts or polity ideas. So they are manifesting the kind of a reaction from their environment.
Okay.
Thank you.
You guys can go call in the two people. But before that, let me ask. Social media.
Mm.
Do you think that social media has given African youth a voice, or it has further, gotten them busy with the wrong things?
But the importance, the overall importance of social media cannot be overestimated. It's huge. It's huge. It has made so much great impact across the continent of Africa, not only Africa, globally. First and foremost, the first thing social media did, in as much as it affected me as a journalist, was also to pull out the carpet from under the main media, so that our arrogance of controlling information and controlling sort of knowledge, deciding who hears what, when, and how, that thing they've cut our tail. That arrogance, they've decimated
It's
it.
no longer there.
It's no longer there. So before you even get there, they've already, social media kind of democratization of information. What I used to call Al Jazeeraization. When Al Jazeera took on CNN, and I call it Al Jazeeraization. So they democratized information. But as I said earlier, information is not knowledge. So what social media is giving to most people, 90% of the people, are information. Whether false, fake, or whatever, they're giving information, they're not giving knowledge. For you to get knowledge from social media, you must relax and do proper assessment of handles you listen to, or things you watch, or things you get involved with. That's the only way you can get knowledge. And for you to get that also, it has to be people who already have the knowledge that can give knowledge. Those who don't have knowledge cannot give knowledge. So what they are giving, they can give you entertainment, which is not bad in itself. But if it depends on what you want. If you want entertainment, you will get it. But if you want knowledge, you also get it. So, but the social media has also, because of the over focus on entertainment, I would have preferred edutainment, whereby educational entertainment, which I call edutainment. I would have preferred that, but we don't have enough handles and a lot of people who are doing edutainment, and because it also requires thinking, it requires work, it requires putting in effort.
By the way, sorry to cut you short. By the way, that is what we're doing with Big Brain Niger. That'll be launching soon.
Yeah.
So
edutainment, that's very important. That's very important, whereby you entertain people by also educating them. Whereby you have the entertainment value, then you still have the educational value. By the time they go out there, they know that yes.
And someone that has traveled the world, we've had first-hand experience of different cultures, climes, and just So many around there. I can't, if every time you've talked about so many countries, I want to ask, do you think Nigerian youth complain excessively and make unreasonable comparisons? Or do you think that, that the so-called developed world, that there is actually something different in all those developed world, Western world, Europe, and the rest of them? Do you think
No,
there's
no, no.
really different?
The Nigerian youths are not complaining enough.
Hmm.
I don't think they're complaining enough. I don't think they're even complaining. I think I'm even angry with them because I think they're part of the enablers.
Sorry. The reason I ask this question is because sometimes when people like us will talk, say, it's the same everywhere. It's not easy anywhere.
Yeah, but yes, we know that life is not easy everywhere. But in that not being easy, there's also differences. So that's why when you tell people don't make certain comparisons, they don't understand some of those things. Let me give you an example. If you compare like to like, if you live on a minimum wage, okay, you let's say you live in the United States and you're being paid $15 per hour. Per hour, you get paid $15. If you put in 8 hours, you're paid $15 per hour. You know how much you make in a day after tax. And the issue is that if you drive a Toyota Corolla, what you in a day, your day's pay should be able to fill the tank of that Toyota Corolla, irrespective of where you live. In America, fill the tank of your Toyota Corolla, and also buy grocery for the family. You get it? But somebody who is living on minimum wage in Nigeria, his entire wage, if they pay it to him, if he fills the tank of Toyota Corolla, will he be able to go home? you understand the thing? If he drives the Toyota Corolla and if he did Toyota Corolla, will he be able to? I'm talking about his wage for a month. Is what fills the tank of a Toyota Corolla. But the person who lives in America, his wage for a day will fill the tank of a Toyota Corolla and still have change for buying food stuff. So when people compare some of these things, they don't compare it. They just get unnecessarily emotional in comparing. Yes, we know that they are purchasing power parity. Yes, we know. But the purchasing power parity also based on the wages. Yes, there are inflation everywhere, we know. But the inflation in America and inflation in Nigeria is not the same, because the inflation in America, the wages in America has been growing with inflation in America. But the wages in Nigeria has remained stagnant while the inflation is growing. So, but these are things people don't sit down and analyze. People don't sit down and give them basic hands-on information or knowledge or examples that can help them to understand some of these things little by little. So it's not about telling somebody that if you go to America, what you used to pay for a 3-bedroom flat is what you used to pay for a 3-bedroom flat in a month, is what you used to pay for 3-bedroom flat in a year in Nigeria. Yes, and then but the person who's paying for that 3-bedroom flat in a month, at the end of the year, after tax and everything, that person is still living a better life than the person living in Nigeria.
If you go to Twitter, the X current as it's called currently, you see argument like this. People bring in, half-baked information just to prove a point. Well, I thank you. You've been able to give us this clarification.
Yeah, because what am I? Like I used to tell somebody. I mean, this year alone, this is September, right?
Yes.
Yeah. This year alone, I've traveled to 6 countries, and each of them has spent up to a week in each of the 6 countries. And I can also do calculation about what I used to feed myself, what I used to transport myself. If I use dollar as the benchmark, how much dollar will I change to be able to feed myself in Ghana for 1 week? Then how much dollar can I change to be able to feed myself for 1 week in Sierra Leone, in Senegal? I'm talking about Africa. I'm not talking about any other country. Then when I calculate all these things, I should be able to know where life is tougher than the other. Coupled with other costs and other expenses, I should be able to know. And I should be able to know that if I enter a restaurant in Ghana and I pay so much as this amount of CD for a plate of food, for this kind of thing, this is how much value I'm getting from the food. And if I go to Senegal, this is how much value I'm getting. And if I go to Togo also, this is how much value I'm getting. Then I compare it to how much value I will get if I pay that kind of money in Naira. It is not enough to tell people that this thing can buy you a plate of food. What is in the plate of food? What's the value of what is in a plate of food? You can have chaff in a plate of food, and it fills your tummy. If you're hungry, it makes you, after taking it, you'll be satiated that you're no more hungry. But is it actually doing what food is supposed to do to your body? Nobody is digging deep into that area, but let's leave that for them.
Okay. There is something about freedom of worship that I've always asked myself. We believe that everyone has freedom of worship. But then I wonder, can freedom of worship and indoctrination coexist in the same context without opposing each other? How can you say I have freedom of worship, but you've indoctrinated me into a particular religion right from my childhood when I didn't even know anything? So is there still freedom?
I told you that if you were born in Sokoto, you would have been a Muslim. And you have no choice.
Yeah.
There's no way you could have decided which religion you would be if you are born in Zamfara. You get it? It's it's the 90%, 98% probability is that if you are born in Katsina, you would have been a Muslim. So the freedom of worship is not your own. You are already born into a religion, and this is the religion you are born into. So it is when you get to a certain age, if you are able, I told you before that geography is destiny, and this is part of the geography. Then I talked about geographical determinism and geographical possibilism. Geographical possibilism is when you get to a certain age and you start questioning that religion that your parents took you to, or you start entertaining thoughts, entertaining other religions, possibility. Let me try this. But it takes a certain level of thought for you to get to that level. It's also part and parcel of geography. There are certain things that you don't have control over. Certain things about your destiny has already been predestined by geography. Geography has already making certain choices for you. So the spaces you have to make other choices for yourself has been so constrained. So it depends on when you get to a certain age, you're on your own. Then you start thinking of the possibility of moving out. But the ability to think for that possibility is also reduced by the initial act of being born in a particular way, because how you think is also an influence of the place you were born, the family you were raised. If you are raised in a family whereby you have people who are a little bit the radical side, they can they can break away, then you'll be able to follow that. But if you're raised in a family whereby it's so conservative, they say this is the way we do it, this is the way we've been doing it, nobody can come against the rules and regulation of this family, you find out that you won't be able to express your radicalism. So these things are ingrained. So when people see, like maybe now see all the offsprings of the They are Nicola Kuti, Fela and his brothers and his children and all this kind of thing. It is in the blood. Their grandmother, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, led a group of women to pursue the Alake of Ebaland from his throne. You get it? So and their grandfather founded Nigerian Union of Teachers, which was a pressure group. So when you come from a background where your grandmother is a market leader that was leading riots, and when Zeke went for the first thing in London, the Independence Congress in London, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti and Margaret Ebo were the only two women that followed him to that. So when you have a grandmother like that, you have being Fela becomes easier.
Yes.
Being Beko becomes easier. See, that's how all of them also have that strength in them, that activism. Activism is already in their blood. So when you see Shehu, or when you see Femi, or when you see Made, all those it's already in their blood. They come from a family, and you also know that they also have a blood relationship with Wole Soyinka. You get that kind of thing. So you find that. So if you're not from such background, where nobody shouts a child down, when a child raises up to ask questions, nobody say, "Come on, don't talk. You don't think this is for children." If you see how background and so that's where it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, your question. Please make it very brief. We don't have time.
Thank you very much. I want to ask. I was trying to ask about the intersection of religion and human progress, but you've mentioned the Catholic Church and Scandinavian countries. So now I want to ask. Is geared towards history though. I usually see talks about divide and conquer, divide and rule kind of centralization of information and all that. So I want to ask that, and because history it always repeats itself, there's nothing new under the sun. Is there a way this issue of divide and conquer has been happening in the past? Has it been going on before, historically? And if it has, is there another way of us knowing how it is showing out here? Because most times it's always disguised. Like, you might not really know that this thing has happened before, and you're working towards somebody controlling you and using their power over you. So is there a way it has happened in the past, like example of maybe where it has happened in the past and how it is being shown in today's world?
It has happened in the past. I mean, if you check the history of the country, indirect rule itself is part and parcel of it.
Including information
management, yes, all those is the part and parcel of it. A lot of people talk about Jaja of Opobo, how he was arrested and all those kind. What were they fighting for is about who controls the trade in the oil rivers. That was what they're fighting for. The British, the UACs and all those people who were controlling the oil rivers then saw Jaja of Opobo as a threat, because Jaja of Opobo also was controlling his own trade. So for them, they have to remove him. But in removing him, they have to cook one story or the other to back it up, so that our own people will also see, this Jaja no do well and this kind of thing. They did it also during the invasion. During the invasion of 1897 in Benin, when they came and invaded Benin, looted looted the treasury and destroyed the city and all this kind of thing. They used those kind of things. They were told, do not enter the city within this period, that there's a holy week. That's when the Oba does some rituals. They don't entertain visitors during this period. They knew that the only way they can instigate a war, a battle against Benin, is to cause the Benin people to do something that they themselves will start. Now we start. So that's when the guys entered there. The two guys that first entered and they were killed. and they say that the Benin Kingdom attacked the queens, the kings, they attacked them. Then they use that as a pretext to start attacking Benin, so that they stole all those things. It was those all artifacts that they came to steal. That's what they came to steal. It wasn't just because they want to rule Benin or so. It was the artifacts they came to steal and used the opportunity to put their own person. That should be, what's the name of the other man that they chose from the kingdom, who is also a chief. What's the name of that former governor of Edo State? That's it's also a popular name. There was also a movie that was acted about that. Then they chose him.
So it's Stooge.
They chose him, kind of, to be in charge of the people. So it's that divide and rule, divide and conquer, and manipulation of information, and tell you and get your own people to say, if not that you do this thing, these people will not do this thing for us. So instead of you to see the real thing the way it is, they are using it to manipulate, and they are using it effectively up to date. First of all, what they do now is just to deflate. That's what we call deflection in information. Maybe people will be focusing on, maybe you come and say now, why did the government is building a new road from Badagry to Sokoto, when the roads we have are so bad and are not maintained. They're building Lagos Calabar, this thing. If people focus on it, maybe one day they'll just tell you a story that the army destroyed the bunker of Boko Haram people and they did this. So you people will leave that one and focus on
and
this
jump
other
to
one.
another thing.
So that's it. That's still using it. Deflection. They deflect you. They just put up something and release some information and go and commission something, so that you pull. And when you do those things, it also affects the algorithm. It affects the algorithm, because everybody focuses into where attention goes, algorithm follows.
That is correct. Fast, your own question.
This question is just like, first is about God.
Please just summarize it short. We don't have time.
Like just in one.
Speak to the mic.
Okay. The question is just 2 in 1.
Okay.
Like the first one will lead to the second question.
Okay.
Yes. The thing is, do you believe that God is home science? Like,
Please ask your question. Just summarize it. Ask your
do
question.
you
so
believe
that
that God is omniscience? And if God is omniscience and knows the future and everything, do human truly have free will? Like, do we, the human being, truly have free will?
Yeah, I answered this similar thing earlier today. Based on whichever religion you ascribe to. But I also made it known that God gave man liberty. God gave man free will. I mean, if you study some of the philosophers that have done in the area of free will and all those kind of thing, Schopenhauer and Deka and all those kind of things, they've highlighted some of the issues there. God gave man free will. The choice, power of choice is everything. I'm here today because I chose to be here. You get it? I made up my mind that I'm going to be here. I could have not been here, but I'm here. You're here today because you're here. God has given, my own belief, God has given humanity, men, power, capacity. The brain, I was talking about the brain today, that the brain, we have a brain that they say that even the most intelligent of us don't make use of up to 15% of installed capacity. So you see, 85% is wasted. So think about, if we're able to make use of 50%, we'll be like God. After all, in the Bible, that was some 82 or something. They say, "Ye are gods, children of the Most High, but ye know not, neither do they understand." That's why you die like ordinary men. It's there. It's there. So he created us in his image and his own likeness. His image and his likeness is not the image of God. It's not like God. He wanted us to be like him. And that's why, even if you study, where Jesus Christ said, he said, some of the things I do today, if you believe, you will do more than. So he has given us power. over everything. In as much as there are issues and power that are beyond us, as humans, but you find out that those things were not innate. They are circumstantial, they're geographical. That like national, if you live in Nigeria, there are certain challenges you face as a Nigerian living in Nigeria. But if you are not living in Nigeria, you won't face those challenges. So who puts the challenge on you is not God, it's Nigeria that you were born. And you being born in Nigeria is also what this man used to call fallopian accident. Yeah, who you were born to, in the country you were born to, the family you were born to, is a fallopian accident. So those are the things. But I think, yes, it's not a yes, you ask me if I believe, not if I know.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if I believe in God's omniscience, I believe, being God, he should know the end from the beginning. And the Bible also clarified that he sees the end from the beginning. So he should know the end from the beginning. But the thing is that does not in any way, because a lot of people hide under that when they face challenges or they're unable to do things they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They say, I saw God one time now.
Yes.
No, that's not. God has already given you power and ability to do certain things, to change your situation, to address some challenges. But a lot of us don't do what we are supposed to do because, as I said, our brain, we are still operating at very low installed capacity, of which we need to build the brain power, build the brain muscle to see what we can do. So in spite of the geographical circumscription, we can experience geographical possibilities to escape it.
We want God to do everything for us. So I'm just going to ask just two more questions and it's a wrap. The first question is about ghosts. I've heard stories where we're told that someone died
and they see the person
in another place. Such testimonies and all of that. And a lot of people believe it. A lot of people believe it. So, of course, what I'm going to ask is just your own belief. Do you think it's something that is possible? Have you had any story like that? Or
you see, in the last 2 years, I have started entertaining different beliefs. I've read some works in quantum physics, and it has started to task my beliefs. The things I think I knew, it started tasking it to a different level. Quantum physics is something that can unnerve you and it's something that I remember one professor in Oxford that was teaching the students quantum physics. He said something. He said that what I'm going to teach you is what I do not know. And anytime, at any level, at any level in this class, or at any level I get to, you start thinking that you have started understanding, then know that you too do not know. Because what is happening in that field is on a daily basis. Was it 2 days ago, one Japanese professor says something about alternate planes. We are living in alternate worlds, alternate universe. He was highlighting.
I watched that on
he was
one
highlighting,
podcast.
He was highlighting that alternate universe stuff. Then you think about quantum with the quantum physics, quantum medicine. Then you think about, you have electrons, you have photons, then you keep them. If nobody is watching at them, they will behave differently. But if somebody is watching at them, they'll start acting in a different way. So how do those things know that somebody is watching them? How did they know? if those things are non-living? How do they know? Then if they know, if it is from us, then it means that we are emitting energy. In 2012, when I went to Japan, I visited one guru. The man was using his gaze to move, to bend spoon. The man was 102 or 103 years then.
Like in real life.
In real life, they will put the spoon on top of something like this. Then he will focus on it. He will do his, do all these exercises and focusing, gazing. And that spoon will start moving. And it's no magic. Then the man told us that focus is energy. That anything you focus on expands, whether the good or the bad, even your thought. That's why it's very important to guard your, Paul said, guard your thought with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life. So the man said that whatever you focus your gaze on, whatever you focus on, you are releasing energy on that thing, and that thing expands. So when you think about things and what AI is doing now, what people are discovering, a lot of things people are discovering, and the universe, they will come out today and tell you, we've discovered this. No, I discovered this. 2 days ago, they made a release that America has achieved nuclear fission. Instead of fusion, now they achieved fission. Nuclear fission. So it tells you that the world is so deep. There is so much we do not know. There is so much we may never know. And coming to all those things people talk about, I don't agree, but I don't disagree. I don't have a close experience to really say that such and such a thing has happened. And because I've not met anybody that it has happened to, and the person came and confirmed that it's but I read about it, I hear about it, and a lot of people say this about it. But I don't fully disagree, because the world is so deep.
So the last question, sir. Between politicians, Nigerian politicians, and Nigerian pastors, which do you think is more corrupt?
Yeah, it's not a matter of who do you think is more corrupt. You see, one thing, if you live in a corrupt environment, you'll be corrupted, because corrupt environment is corrupting. There are certain things you say you are not going to do, but the environment will force you to do it. You get what I'm saying? Like now, you get to the airport to board. Time is not, you're still within the time limit, but they've closed the boarding gate, and there is nothing you can do, and you have to board. And somebody tell you, if you can take you to the supervisor can help you to board, but you need to drop something, and you need to fly. But you can become an Oshomole. But even if you become an Oshomole, you will still not fly. You get the kind of thing. So when you factor in some of those things, you tell yourself, okay, what is 20,000? You delete 20,000, so that, because where you're going is very important. You board, you pay for what you're not supposed to pay. The major problem we have is that we live in a corrupt environment, an environment that is corrupting, and it's so corrupting that even if you don't want to be part of that corruption, and it's at different level, if you don't want to be part of that corruption, the environment will frustrate you into being corrupt. If you take your sick child to a hospital, ordinarily you're supposed to see a medical doctor, you're supposed to be attended. But if they say somebody just came from the side and said the doctor is busy, and you're waiting, and your child is sick, and you see your child needing help urgently, it's an emergency, and somebody from the side and say, sir, but I can take you to a doctor that is not busy, that can see your child, but it will cost you something. Are you going to say, I'm not a corrupt man? Go, I'm not a corrupt man, and lose your child? You're not going to do that. You're going to say, whatever it takes to see a doctor, I'm going to see a doctor, and you take your child there. But you have practiced corruption to get what you want. So that's how the system is so corrupt. It's corrupting in that some things that people are supposed to get, basic things people are supposed to get for themselves, they don't get it for themselves until they do one thing or the other, which is also a function of the high level of poverty in the land. And there is no profession that is safe. When you have systemic corruption, no profession is safe. Is it the journalist that will see a good story and they will kill it and collect money? Is it the policeman that will release a criminal and collect money? Is it the medical doctor that will run working in a public hospital but will spend more time in a private hospital? Or is it the pharmacist in the hospital that will be taking drugs made not to be sold and use it in his own pharmacy shop, while people who are coming to the public hospital are buying drugs outside? It permeates everything. Everything we do, the air we breathe is even corrupt in itself. So it happens. And the issue is that there is no escaping. You can't escape it. You can't escape it. And because of the high level of poverty and high level of corruption, the so-called men of God, the pastors you have also, are part. I've seen themselves in the system. Ordinarily, the church is not supposed to be part of the world. But now, things have turned in a way whereby the church is the center of the world, whereby those who are supposed to be the moral compass of the society are now the people who are projecting and promoting some of these things. So it's a big challenge. But the pastor, the politician is like a vulture. He's up there, reeking and scavenging from everybody, because it is in his own interest. It's his own business, it's his own industry. It is in his own interest that the whole thing continue the way it is, because that's where he gets relevance. That's where he gets validation. There's this saying in Igbo that Alarema Urundense. So which means that that things are not working well, that there's chaos in the land. It's for the advantage of the elite. So which means our ancestors knew this all along. So they found that. So that's where the system. If you have a systemic corruption, it doesn't mean that there's no corruption in advanced countries. There are corruption in advanced countries, but you can even see. Let me tell you, if you talk about corruption by volume of funds involved, Nigeria might not be among the first 20 countries. But when you talk about corruption per capita, how it has permeated the society, Nigeria will be among the top 5 countries. In some of those countries, you might not bribe to see a medical doctor. You might not bribe a policeman to do this. You might not bribe. Maybe when you need to bribe is when you're dealing in huge government business or contract, and they'll tell you that is money for lobby, and which is very big. But at this level, school level, you don't need to bribe a teacher. You don't need to bribe a nurse in the hospital. You don't need to, all those kind of things. Or you don't go to a place you want to park. The person who's parking the place tell you cannot park here unless you find something for me. Or the person who's cleaning toilet in the airport will tell you, withhold the tissue paper that was made available for that thing. Then unless you say, oh God, if you say, I wish you safe journey, and you responded, thank you for wishing me safe journey, then they give you tissue paper. It's something for something. So that's the problem we have. Our own is permeated to all sectors of human endeavor. So I bet it's a pity. And I don't see how we'll come out of it as long as the politicians keep, using poverty as a weapon.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a very wonderful one. This is arguably the longest we've recorded in this studio. I believe this video is longer, over 3 hours. And I want to especially thank you for taking out your time. We know we've stressed you with all of these questions, and I believe we're going to definitely have this session once again, where we're going to ask the rest of our questions. Thank you so much. And if you've watched to this point, I want to thank you and remind you to kindly subscribe to our channel. If you do so, you'll be helping us to grow and to, carry out the work we're doing at KaaTruths. We are interested in getting Africa to become like the rest of the developed world. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.